Now, before I begin, I want to go through each of the tiers, even though they're pretty self-explanatory. I just want to give some context to each tier and what they might mean to me. S tier are the GOATs, of course, the creme de la creme of this massive horror game list that I certainly have not played probably 80% of these games. But there are some that I absolutely adore and love for their storytelling or their gameplay, or even their scary factor. This is not a scariest games tier list. This is not the most fun game tier list. This is not the most original, cool storytelling tier list. This is a mixture of all three. So, if a game is fun, scary, and has great storytelling, it'll probably be an S tier for the most part. I might have a little bit of bias because this is my tier list. It's my opinion. It's how I feel about things. There might be a little bit of weird movement of things here and there, depending on how I feel. We'll have to see. Also, I am going to go pretty in-depth into this. So, for instance, let's say I like Silent Hill Metamorphosis, whatever the fuck this is, more than Silent Hill 1, I'm going to shift it over. So, left to right also matters within this tier list. So, I just thought I should say that. For the rest of the tiers, A is great, really good games. B are good games. They could have some work. C are games that have a good chunk of bad, or maybe I just didn't like it a lot, or issues. Could be anything. There's a lot more work to be done there. And then D tier is not a fan. Personally didn't like it. It's alright if some people do. And as you see, I don't have an F tier because for the most part, I don't think that we should consider games to be F tier. If they're bad, they're bad. Maybe some people will get enjoyment out of it. As long as the game isn't doing anything crazy or bad or whatever, I don't particularly care to put it into F tier. Everyone probably has a bad first game, and so, I think we can learn from that, and then we can learn to make better games. Also, not that this particularly matters, but the higher it is on this tier list of 5 tiers, the more I'm inclined to want to watch someone play it, because I enjoyed it so much and I want to see what other people think about it. The further down the list you go, it's I'd like to watch it, and then I don't care if I watch it, and then D tier is I'm probably not going to watch you play it. In terms of my friends, because a lot of my friends like horror games. And then I also have a haven't played tier, because I've not played most of these games. And then I don't consider horror tier. There's a couple of games in here that I would certainly not consider to be horror games by any stretch. But that could just be me. People find different things scary. Anyway, now that that's been talked about, I say we get right into this. The first game, the original Silent Hill. I played the original Silent Hill pretty late. I played it at the very beginning of this year. Not the very beginning, probably in spring of 2024. And unironically, I had a lot of fun playing this game. I have always heard of Silent Hill kind of growing up, because it was a game that was still releasing as I was growing up, and I really, really wanted to play it. Silent Hill and Resident Evil were games that I'd always heard about, but I was like, man, I don't have a console to play them on, because I've always been a computer gamer. And so not having the luxury, I guess you could say, of a console was really sad. And then I also don't know if Resident Evil or Silent Hill ever came out on Xbox, but I got an Xbox at one point, but I never had a PlayStation. So I never got to play these until more recently. I got whatever I needed. I got a controller, and I was able to play through the original Silent Hill. And I thought it was a very great game. It's definitely limited by its era. If you actually don't know, as far as I'm aware, I think the like fog effect in Silent Hill is to help give a sense of illusion of a grander world, because you couldn't load in like the sets of the world very fast on like the original PlayStation. So that's kind of where it was able to actually kind of mix into like the theme of the game and this, you know, foggy ass town, which I think is really funny. What else can I talk about? The story I think is pretty good. It's the original Silent Hill, so it's vastly different than the later games as far as I'm aware, but it sets up the world and just how crazy it is. I think the gameplay was very fun. I liked the survival horror elements of Silent Hill a lot, actually, and I didn't think I would. It's probably not as survival horror as some other games. As long as you explore a lot, you can do really, really well in Silent Hill. The original Silent Hill is also pretty directionless, and that's probably where I have to talk about what I didn't like. It was very hard to get around in this game, and there's a lot of secrets that if you miss can alter your ending in the first game, I think. Like, you basically need to explore if you want to like get some of the better endings, because there's a handful of endings. And I did not get all of them, but if you care to getting a lot of endings, there's some slight variation between some. There's like Easter egg endings. Silent Hill's quite the series if you enjoy anything like that. So I really recommend Silent Hill in general to people that like that. But original Silent Hill, I'm leaving it. Silent Hill 2. I have played up until, without spoiling, I'm not going to spoil anything in this video, I've played up to the hospital section. And for the most part, I have just about the same feelings for Silent Hill 2 that I do Silent Hill 1. The story is vastly different, and instead of being just like a general horror that Silent Hill 1 was, Silent Hill 2 being like the fan favorite of the Silent Hill games for most people is psychological horror, and I think it did really well, at least for the original of what I've played. I think it did great. It's very cheesy though for its time, and I mean the original Silent Hill is also pretty cheesy. I don't fault them too much though. I still think it was fun. I thought they were both fairly scary. Silent Hill 2 I found to be a whole lot scarier. The story is absolutely fantastic. I feel like it does better in direction compared to the original Silent Hill. One thing I do have to say that keeps it from probably being S tier is the combat. I did not particularly like the combat of Silent Hill 2, and I think a lot of people actually kind of agree. It was a little different than the original, and I thought the original did a lot better. But that's something that does change in regards to the remake, so I'll talk about that later, though. So I do like Silent Hill 1 better than 2, though, so I still think it's a great game. And technically I have not finished it, but I feel like I know enough, considering that I have played the remake, I can probably comfortably put it here. Unfortunately, that's pretty much where my Silent Hill ends. I have not played 3 and onward. Supposedly, Silent Hill 4 is where it starts getting a little, like, iffy, maybe. But I don't know much about that. Here are some of the Silent Hill games that were announced on the transmission back in October of 2022. This is Silent Hill Ascension? I think so. This is the online, like, Battle Pass voting game. Supposedly it was pretty bad. I don't think many people liked it, and that's where, like, the famous, like, it's trauma, like, meme comes from, because it, like, mixes Gen Z, Gen Alpha, like, slang with the horror kind of thing. It's like a silly, hey kids, you know, I'm cool. It just doesn't really hit though. And I have not played it. I did not put any money into it. I don't even know if I was able to play it. I'm just going to put it in D tier. I think most people probably didn't like it, so I think that's fair. Silent Hill: A Short Message. I have not played, but oh my god, I want to play it so bad. I don't have the ability to, though. Maybe one day. Townfall, that has not released. Silent Hill F has also not released, but it's the Ryukishi 07 game. This Silent Hill is taking place in rural Japan. It might actually take place in the town that Silent Hill is based off of from Japan. I don't know the town name because like the kanji's hard, but maybe it'll take place there. And it's very interesting because this will be the first Silent Hill game, as far as I'm aware, that takes place outside of Maine, which is where Silent Hill takes place. Well, that's really cool. And I'm excited for it. I'm very, very excited for it. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Big ol' A tier. Silent Hill 2 Remake I played most recently, aside from Amnesia the Bunker. I played it and finished it within, I think, a month of it coming out. October the 8th, and I finished it like November 2nd. Absolutely phenomenal game. I think everyone was really, really anxious about this one because it was being developed by Bloober Team, who made a couple of other games in the horror genre that were not particularly well received. I don't think Bloober Team is that bad. I understand why people don't like them that much, but they really, really knocked it out of the park this time around, and I'm so proud of them and happy for them, and I hope they are able to continue this going forward so that we're able to get more fun and engaging games from them, and so that they can continue to grow as a company and get more people into the horror genre itself, because horror is not... The horror genre is a very tight-knit sphere, because a lot of people are either too scared to play horror games, or it's like this like weird thing where it's like, I hate horror because I get scared. Kind of the same thing, kind of a mix between the both. I fucking love horror games because it just gives you a feeling that you never feel on the average, and I like the themes that they usually present. I think they're very interesting to think about. But anyway, Bloober Team did absolutely phenomenal in the Silent Hill 2 remake. It improved upon the combat that I really, really liked from the original Silent Hill 2. Or that I did not like from the original Silent Hill 2. They improved. The game looks phenomenal. It has the Bloober look to it. And I actually kind of struggled to find a reason not to put it into S tier. If I do think about it though, I think it might be a little too easy. I don't think there's like a AI director or like a difficulty director. So if you play on like normal difficulty, or is it hard? I don't remember what I played on. If you play on like the normal difficulty, and if you've played enough survival horror games, it's a really easy game. I think I finished the game with like 30 syringes and 30 health drinks, which is a lot. And I also always had enough ammo to like get through everything pretty well. Something else I will say, and I should have mentioned it in Silent Hill 2, but I guess I wanted to wait here. Something that I don't like about these two games, and I'm sure people would be a little upset that I feel this way. I do not like how you get different endings in Silent Hill 2 versus like the original Silent Hill. I think it is extremely difficult to get like a good ending on your original playthrough of Silent Hill 2 if you are trying to understand what's going on and the themes that are presented. I feel like that's all I can really say in terms of the story without going too much into the detail that the game leaves very little of. You do have to do a lot of kind of investigating into what has been presented and what little you have, and try to connect some dots. And I think it is fun, but the game will give you specific endings when you do certain things that I feel like, if you really want to get a good ending, will disappoint you for that reason. Alright, next on the list is PT. Playable teaser from the minds of Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro and almost Junji Ito. For those who don't know, Junji Ito never actually did anything for PT. He was, I think, considered to be, he was going to be a part of it, but he never actually did anything creative on the work of Playable Teaser, but he was planning to work on it, I think. Playable Teaser came out in 2014. I think it came out after Five Nights at Freddy's, which kind of freaks me out because I always thought it was the opposite. I thought PT came out in like 2012, 2013. PT is not that old, and that freaks me out. But for those who don't know, PT was a 30-minute to an hour, something like that, playable teaser for a unreleased and unfortunately canceled Silent Hill game called Silent Hills. It is probably the scariest game I can think of off of the top of my head, and that's why I'm putting it in the S tier. I'm probably putting like the most fun and the most horrific and the best storytelling games in the S tier, just for those reasons alone. PT is just, it's tight, it's tense, and it's scary, and it does it so well. And I absolutely love it for it. I've never played it. I've seen enough of it though to know that I would probably be shitting bricks if I were to be sitting in my room in the dark at like 2 o'clock in the morning playing that game. And I would be having a hell of a blast playing it too though. It's also part of like an ARG. Like there were a lot of secret things in that game that if you figured them out would give you a secret ending or a secret like ending cutscene that would show the protagonist of the game Silent Hills to be Norman Reedus, which is so funny. Around that time, I think he was working on The Walking Dead, so it was really weird to kind of be a part of the horror scene very slightly. You know, I was like really young at the time, so I wasn't like too much into it, but it was weird seeing a character from The Walking Dead, a TV show I watched at the time, to just being in a horror game. I was like, dude, this is crazy. How is he doing this? And he looked really good too. Like they motion capped him or whatever really well. And it's crazy. Layers of Fear. I played this probably about a year ago, a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years almost now. I'll put it in okay. This is a Bloober Team work, I think one of their first, if I'm not mistaken. I think the theme is really good. The theme is very unique, it's very artistic, I think it's very beautiful. You play as like an artist, and so like the whole game, you see like different depictions of different themes through canvas and oil painting and things like that. And I think it's very, very nice. Otherwise though, something that Bloober Team tends to have a problem with is walking simulators. And some people don't mind a walking simulator as long as it feels scary and tense. But the longer that a game is a walking simulator, the less you feel threatened, which I feel like can diminish the horror factor. Layers of Fear was certainly a kind of like a scary game when I first started playing it, but as it drags along, all these things happen around you and it doesn't feel as scary because nothing ever really happens to you, if I remember correctly. It's also not particularly a fun game because it's a walking simulator. You kind of just walk around and you can go through one door or another and it'll change the outcome of what happens, but other than that, you're just like kind of picking up notes. That's really it. Alright, Resident Evil. Here we go. This is a long list. And I'm not starting off with 0, even though they put that first. I have not played the original Resident Evil, so I don't have anything to say about that. I do know that Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3, I think the originals, are available on GOG, but I have not played those. Maybe one day I will. I would like to play those. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I just don't have the time right now. But I will start here. Resident Evil 1 Remaster? I think that's what people call it, Remaster. I'm not gonna lie, because I am a more modern gamer, I do have a more particular taste when it comes to games that people back in the day, when they had more limited controls and experiences through the console limitations and things like that, or accessibility, I can understand that. I just can't live with it because I've never grown up with it. I'm not used to it. Resident Evil 1 has tank controls, and it has the door loading screens. The original Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 have them, I think. Every time you want to walk into a new room, you have to go through like a 6-second long transition. It's like the door appears, you open it, and it closes behind you. It's cool for a while, but when you have to backtrack through a mansion and fight off creatures and zombies and all kinds of things, it feels a little tedious. And I feel like I've wasted so much time looking at these cutscenes that I get a little sick of it. The game is cheesy. Resident Evil is especially cheesy. I think Resident Evil is more cheesy than Silent Hill, because just about every game is cheesy. I think maybe Silent Hill 1 and 2 are probably the only ones. But then again, I've only played those, so maybe that's just me. This remake of the original Resident Evil is still very, very well loved, though. It was basically the best remake that people in that sphere probably ever got. I don't know if any game was ever remade like that within that time. I don't know, though, because I wasn't really alive for it. This is a 2002 game, I think. So in that way, I do have to admit that it is important to a lot of people. I just didn't like it too much. Also, the difference between Jill and Chris, the two playable characters, it's pretty steep. Playing Jill, I feel like, is pretty easy. Playing as Chris, you're playing on like ultra hard mode, and I think it's very tough. If you are a new age gamer, you could probably have fun with this, but you will also probably have some kind of frustration with it. Or maybe I was just frustrated with it. Maybe I suck. I don't know. That could just be me. I still think it's worth playing. It sets up the events of the next billion Resident Evil games. So if you play it and maybe 3 hours in, you're like, I don't actually like this. Maybe 2 hours if you really want to like refund it on Steam. Just drop it. And then I would probably recommend watching a video on the story so that you're not missing out on anything going forward if you want to continue playing Resident Evil, because I think the rest of the games are pretty good, pretty damn good, at least the next couple. Speaking of the next couple, we're going to do the Resident Evil 2 remake. I absolutely love this game. Pretty much the second Resident Evil game I played. I tried to play the original Resident Evil, and I got decently far, but then I dropped it because I was starting to not like it. And so I just went to the next Resident Evil after I watched a video explaining it. I did end up completing this, though. I don't think I dropped this forever. Second Resident Evil, I'm putting in S tier. I think it is an extremely well-polished game, a wonderful remake from what I've heard of other people who have played the original Resident Evil 2. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think the only limiting thing is probably its story. Like I was saying earlier, every Resident Evil game is pretty cheesy, and this continues it, but I don't mind it too much. But I think the cheesiness does kind of tone down the story from being like as serious as I'd like it to be. I like my horror games to be a little serious because it really makes me focus on what's important, and it feels more real. Resident Evil 2 looks absolutely beautiful. I think the survival horror aspects of Resident Evil 2 are very, very, very well done. The characters are very nice. Another thing that will probably turn some people off is that with Resident Evil 1 and 2, you have A-B scenarios. And what this means is on your first time playing, you will have a selection between playing one character or another. In the first game, you have Jill and Chris. In the second game, you have Leon and Claire. Whichever one you play first will be your A scenario, and your second one will be your B scenario. So if I play Leon A, Claire will be my B. If I play Chris first, Chris is my A, Jill is my B. You will be going through roughly the same places. The story will have slight differences though, at least for the first one. Resident Evil 2 has probably like a third or a fourth of the game difference for your B scenario than your first. Is it really worth it to play it a second time? I think so. For the second game, not the first. The first game, I don't think has very much of a difference. You see different characters, but overall you go to the same places in the first game, but in the second game, Resident Evil 2 Remake 2019, you go to different places along with seeing new characters. So I think it does a lot better there. But you still go through like the RPD mansion, for example. That's like the first location. You both go to that. And so you kind of feel like you've already seen all of this, and it makes it technically easier. So it is what it is. It balances it out. Your B scenario is usually going to be a little faster than your first because you've already been through some of these areas. Resident Evil 2 also has a lot of like post-game content, which I absolutely love. It adds a little bit more replay value to a game that I had a lot of fun playing. So it's like, I want to spend a little bit more time playing this before I drop it forever. Quote forever, because sometimes I like to replay horror games. Resident Evil 4 Original. I'm going to be putting this also in A tier. Its influence is so crazy. So many people, even if they've never played a Resident Evil game before, for some reason played Resident Evil 4. I don't know why. I guess it was huge. It was fun. It's a very arcadey game, and I think it is probably one of the most fun games on this list, period. I don't like the story as much as Resident Evil 2. I think the shift in character of the protagonist is a little too weird for me, but it is what it is. I think most people that play Resident Evil 4 will enjoy it. I think it's just fun. It's silly, and it's goofy, and it's very different than what you're used to for Resident Evil if you played 1 through 3, whether it's the originals or the remakes. But, again, it's super fun. I really don't know what else to say. It is the start of a more action-focused series of games within Resident Evil, but there are still some slight horror sections in the original Resident Evil 4 that I think a lot of people can appreciate. Other than that, though, I don't think the story is like too terrible. I think Resident Evil 2 does it better, but I think it's a lot of fun, and there is some horror there for those that like it. But overall, I think it's still a really good game that a lot of people will like to play. Resident Evil 5, I'm going to put, I guess, in B. I'm kind of torn between B and C. Resident Evil 5 is the most sold Resident Evil game out there. It kind of has like the weird thing with Resident Evil 4 where a lot of people picked it up who have never played the game before. Any game in the series. So it's kind of weird. And I think a lot of people did pick it up because it is the first... I think? Is it the first? No, it might not be the first. It is a very large co-op campaign. It's a multiplayer co-op shooter. And a lot of people like it. I think, though, Resident Evil 5 is where the horror drops a lot more significantly than it did in, like, 4. And so because this is one of the aspects of this tier list is horror, I think it kind of drops down in my score a good chunk. I think it's fairly fun. It's not as arcadey stupid as Resident Evil 4, so it also goes down there. And the story is It's alright. I don't think it's anything particularly interesting. Resident Evil 6. Shit, I don't really know. I've only ever played one campaign of 6. There are 4 campaigns in total. One is single player, and I think the other 3 are multiplayer. You can play with one other friend. I think I'll probably put it in C. I know a lot of people do not like Resident Evil 6. I thought it was somewhat fun. Slightly more arcadey than like 5, but I don't like how it looked. I don't like where it goes with the story. It is super action focused, and it's also, again, like cheesy. I don't know. It's just, if you play it, you'll understand, especially considering what Resident Evil used to be. It's just a weird detraction, and I think a lot of people can and will appreciate the future of Resident Evil, which is Resident Evil 7 instant S tier. I'll probably put it under PT. I think PT is a little scarier. It's also hard though, because PT never fully got, released. So like the what if with PT is really sad. It could have been probably a shit game. It could have been a great game. I don't really know. So you know what? I'll put Resident Evil 7 above it. I think that's fair. I know people love to glaze PT, but I think it really was doing something that could have been absolutely amazing, knowing the minds that were considered to be working on it. For Silent Hill 7, which released in 2017, early 2017, it is absolutely what people were looking for out of Resident Evil for a long time, of just not having horror anymore. For context, Resident Evil 4 was a 2004 game. Then you have 5, and you have 6, and you have some like spin-offs somewhere down here that were a little bit more horror focused, but we didn't have a mainline numbered Resident Evil game that was horror focused in such a long time. Resident Evil 7 comes along with such a clash of classic horror and inspiration from games like PT, from what I'm assuming, to create a very, very tight and scary experience. We brought back Resident Evil, and people were so happy. It brought back the stalker enemy that can be seen in some of the Resident Evil games. It brought back survival horror, no more action, and it brought back an atmosphere that feels real, and it was so well loved. Resident Evil 7 is very fun. I think it's great. I like the survival horror elements. I like the characters, the story. I'd say is, for the most part, good. There's a couple of iffy things that I have to say about it, but I can't really get into it with spoilers. There's choices that don't really make sense, and characters that feel kind of weird. You really think about like their motives and things, and it could have been done probably a little better, but I think people were really happy with the result anyway. We got Resident Evil back. The enemies of Resident Evil 7 are a little boring compared to some of the other games. They don't have as much of an interesting design, but it's a new kind of enemy that fits this new era of Resident Evil. So that'll be fun for you to explore. Resident Evil 7 is also another game with a lot of post-game content. I also realized I'm missing Resident Evil 3. I forgot to grab that. I'll go back to that. Resident Evil 7 has a lot of post-game content. It has like a card game, an arcade, like beat 'em up. Or is that 7? That might be 8. I can't remember. You have like an escape room. There's a lot of extra cool shit in Resident Evil 7 that you can do. It's basically the new Resident Evil games like 2, 7, 3, 4 remake, 8. They have a lot of post-game unlockable stuff that gives, again, a little bit more replayability, and it's really cool. I love it. They need to keep doing that. I hope they keep doing that. I'm also a little biased for Resident Evil 7 because it takes place in Louisiana, which is very, very close to home. It's also very interesting to know and to feel that, like, dude, this game takes place in the state that I live in. Like, this is wild. Japanese developers flew out all the way over here to get like a feel of like our landscape that's like swamp and mud, and you know, it sounds gross and it kind of is, but like it's a part of our planet, and like very few people live in it. I'm one of them, and I got to experience a game that took inspiration from it. I think that's so cool. Like, playing through Resident Evil 7, it is probably the closest game to Louisiana that I can think of. Anyway, that's all I have to say for that. Resident Evil 3. Put in B. Resident Evil 3, I have not played the original, but from what I've heard, Resident Evil 3 was a lot... There was a lot of cut content from the original. From what I've heard, it was like the clock tower, which I never got to experience. But if it was very rushed, and considering the time that it came out, which was the pandemic, I don't really blame them. We probably could have waited another 2 years for this game to come out if we were waiting on the pandemic to end, or for, you know, rules and laws to be more laxed. But what did come out, I think was like pretty good overall. There's a lot they could have done better. The game could have been fleshed out. I think the combat was a little different than what I liked from like Resident Evil 2, but knowing Resident Evil 3, who you're playing as, more context, I think it's fair to shift up the combat a little to make use of that. Also, the antagonist for Resident Evil 3, the Nemesis, is also very nice, very cool, very notable character. If you know Resident Evil, you probably know Nemesis, at least to some degree. Maybe you've seen him before. If you like your little post-game unlockable stuff, that's also here in this game. Resident Evil... What do I do next? I'll do Village. Resident Evil Village... The more I think about Village, and the more I compare it to Resident Evil 7, I get a little sad. I don't think it's a terrible game by any means. I think it did a lot good, but I don't think it was the sequel to Resident Evil 7 that I was really hoping for. Is a continuation of the Winters family saga, is also the conclusion of the Winters family saga. Considering how scary Resident Evil 7 was, I was a little disappointed in Village a lot. The only truly scary part, or horror-themed part of Village, was the second portion, House Beneviento. And it's probably like the only major clipped part of Village, because that is really just the only scary part. You also have like later portions of the game that feel a little slow and don't feel as good. There's a problem with Resident Evil games as a whole, kind of, where the first sections of gameplay take place in like the most well-designed, most thought out and polished portions of the game. And so like the later parts of the game, either through lack of funds or time or maybe crunch, don't get as much attention. And I think Resident Evil 2 and Village and 4, just about all of these games had that kind of a problem. But Resident Evil 4, or Resident Evil 7, but Resident Evil 8 has it a lot worse, I think, than some of the other games. It also has like a slight inspiration from Resident Evil 4. Village doesn't feel like it knows what it wants to be. That might just be me. It's like a mix of Resident Evil 4, Village, and like kind of parts of Resident Evil 2. The first portion of the game, where you're in the castle, it's fantastic. I love it. But after that, and after you're done with Beneviento's house, it's like, I feel like that's kind of just where like the peak ends. And after that, it doesn't like, you know, go straight down, but it does slow down after that. So I'll put Village. Do I like Silent Hill 2 more? I think that's fine. I think Silent Hill 2 I probably like a little bit more, the original. Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm going to put this next to the original Resident Evil 4. This is like the only two games that I can't really decide between which one's better. I would say Resident Evil 4 is quite a good, nice remake. It's for the most part faithful. Some key differences where it really needed to be better, but it doesn't have as much of an arcadey feel as I feel like the original does. So I feel like they kind of equal out, but I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to really talk about Resident Evil 4 too much. It's really polished. The action's great. It's a lot more horror focused, which was good. I like that. They managed to do it really well. The game looks absolutely stunning. It played nice. That's about all I have to say. Resident Evil 4 VR. Shit, I might kind of just feel the same about that too. I mean, it's basically just the same game. You're just playing in VR. Resident Evil 4 VR is the first VR game that I've played. Really the only VR game I've played. I have like Pavlov, but it's like a multiplayer game. You can't really finish that. So I'm just gonna leave it up there. Resident Evil 4 in general probably just deserves an S. Resident Evil 0. I have not finished Resident Evil 0, but it is essentially the prequel to Resident Evil 1, and it has the same stick for the most part. Instead of like an A and B scenario, you have a switch character single scenario. So you play as one character and you can switch to another character, and you usually use that to solve puzzles and things like that. I will say this one was hard. I had trouble with the original Resident Evil, but this one was also just kind of hard. I don't know. It also has like, tank controls and shit like that, so not too much of a fan. Resident Evil Verse. This was a little arcadey fighting game where you got to play as characters from the Resident Evil series, both heroes and villains and other characters who are morally ambiguous, and you just fight in iconic locations. I was hopeful for it. It wasn't really what a lot of people were hoping for, though, I think, and in all, I think people are tired of Capcom, the creators of Resident Evil, trying to make the next multiplayer little arcade fight 'em up, beat 'em up, shoot 'em up game. They tried doing it a lot with Resident Evil. It just does not work. I had fun playing Resident Evil Verse, but it's not something I could imagine people playing like consistently for like the next couple of years. It's just not. And I think it stopped being updated because, there's no monetary gain from them. There's no reason for them to keep it up. I wish people would have a little bit more faith in Capcom to do this, but at the same time, I can see why people feel tired of it. It's never worked out. Maybe they probably should stop trying to do it. Prey I've heard a lot of, but I have not played it. Here we go. A game I have played, Dead Space. I'll put that in A. Do I like it more than Silent Hill? That's hard. I think I like the horror from Silent Hill a little bit more. Dead Space. A really cool game. One of the very, very few, I feel like, horror games that take place in outer space, aside from, the big one that everyone thinks of. Dead Space has kind of like the same story as Silent Hill 2, if you have an idea of what Silent Hill 2 is kind of based around. Same kind of shtick there, except it all takes place in outer space. Science fiction. The creatures are all kind of alien focused, but very gory and gruesome, and they look very cool. I love the creature design of Dead Space a lot. I like the creature design of just about all horror games. I don't know. There's just something interesting about horror creature design that I really like. But Dead Space is very unique, and I like it. Dead Space is also really, really fun. I like the combat of Dead Space a lot. It's not arcadey like Resident Evil 4, But there was something very satisfying about all these different weapons you can get and the upgrade, using your environment and whatever tools you have available to kill creatures in like unique and interesting ways. It's very good. The story is also pretty damn good. I don't think it's anything too crazy. I should also mention that the protagonist is a blank slate. The protagonist does not talk at all. So you kind of have to, you know, give your personality to the character, which I don't really like. I don't like silent protagonists. I just don't. But that's just how I feel. The horror of this game, it's pretty good for a while, but you kind of get used to it after some time. And it doesn't do too much to shake it up, in my opinion. But maybe that's just me. I still think it's really good though, so I'm gonna put Dead Space in A. I think it deserves that. I've not played Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 3. What is that? Dead Space D-Make? I don't know what that is. That's a D, right? That looks like a D. Dead Space Remake. I'll probably put that kind of like the same thing with Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake. I like both for their own reasons. Dead Space Remake looks a lot better. And it has a lot more interesting weapon stuff. You can do a little bit more with their weapons compared to the original. But for some reason, I don't think it's as scary. And of course, it might be because I've already played through the original Dead Space, so I know what to expect. Also, I've played this on the channel, if you want to go watch that. It's been entirely live streamed on Twitch, and I put all the VODs on the channel. So, that sounds like fun. You know, feel free to do that. I had also recorded Layers of Fear, but I never edited it. I don't know if I had a reason why I never did, but... Woo! The Callisto Protocol. I know this might sound a little weird, but I enjoyed Callisto Protocol for what it was. I know a lot of people were a little disappointed, and I think rightfully so. I know I'm saying like rightfully so a lot, but I come from like a fairly understanding mindset. Callisto Protocol was a new AAA horror game, which we haven't seen in so long, that was being directed by the original director for Dead Space. I forgot his name. I can't remember names when it comes to that stuff. But we were all really excited. Like, this is going to be like the new, more modern Dead Space. I don't even think Dead Space Remake was announced by this time. I could be wrong. What came out was a kind of feature, not a featured list, but like there weren't, like the features that were provided weren't very expanded upon. In the original trailer, one of the main cool things that people were looking at was the melee combat. The melee combat of Callisto Protocol was not well received on actual like release. It was all the enemies that you fight in the Callisto Protocol are very beefy and they take a lot of hits, and if there's enough of them around you get very overwhelmed and you have to use your very limited ammo. It's survival horror, but it's a little frustrating. And I think that's where people had a lot of difficulty. It was frustrating, and one of the worst things a horror game can be is frustrating. And I think that's what this game ended up being for a lot of people. And it also, I don't think it did enough to separate it from Dead Space. It's a horror game that takes place out in space, and the story is actually like fairly unique and different compared to Dead Space. You know what Dead Space is? The Callisto Protocol is like not really the same at all. But for some reason it still doesn't feel like it hits anything new that I was hoping it would. There's also like a DLC for this game. I've never played it. After I beat Callisto Protocol, I was like, alright, that's cool. I'm done. And then I uninstalled it. It's like, it was pretty big. It was like 80 gigs or something, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very nice looking game, but it was just a lot. I never had any problems with running the game, but I also heard a lot of people have had troubles with like frame rate and performance. So just keep that in mind. Also, now that I've played Silent Hill 2, the Callisto Protocol melee combat should have been what Silent Hill 2 melee combat was. I think that's like a good example of what it could have been and what it should have been. Lots of Alien games. And then the big one, Alien Isolation. The Sega AAA horror game, Alien Isolation, obviously based on the regular Alien movie, but with its own story and meaning. That game's really fucking scary for like a good portion of it. It is tense, and it has one of the best stalker monsters I think I have seen in any game, if not the best stalker monster. Its AI is very intense, and it learns from the player and what they do, the actions they take, any patterns, and it uses that to shift itself up, make it unpredictable, and it's very, very well done. After some time, you might get used to it. I don't think I ever got used to it personally. I was very scared at the start of the game, and I hid in lockers like crazy. If you've seen any of my Alien Isolation videos, mainly my first one, there are so many portions where I'm like hiding in a locker, and I have to like speed up the video by like 4 times. And I left that in just to show how scared I was and how long it took me to like get over that I was playing a game like that. It's very, very good for like majority of it. The survival horror of the game is also really good, and it feels empowering. You have lots of different weapons and tools to your disposal. You have to, craft items to use them, and it's like you feel like a survivor in Alien Isolation, and that feels really good. It's weird because in these other survival horror games, like Resident Evil specifically, I don't feel as much as a survivor when I kill zombies or like a boss and move on to the next room. But Alien Isolation, because of how tense it is compared to like Resident Evil, it feels a lot more meaningful to like get out of an encounter and be like, dude, I did that. That was awesome. Alien Isolation is, however, probably one of the longer horror games on this list, and I think that's where it can kind of detract. I think most people wanted it to end a lot sooner. It's a little padded. Yeah, I think that's fair. There's also some like other like cool monsters in Alien Isolation, and like things to look out for. That was really cool. The story I didn't particularly find to be interesting enough, but maybe that was just me. Overall, really fucking scary game, and that's why it's up so high. It's really scary, and it feels fun to play and work against the alien. Alright, this is my second session of the horror game tier list. So far, I think I'm good on everything I have here. However, I am going to make some small changes. I'm going to move Alien Isolation down 1. I think realistically, in a scenario where I'm taking like a lot of people's account into this, I think it'll probably be S tier, but for me, I'm going to leave it in A, and I'm actually going to move Silent Hill 2 above Alien Isolation, personally. I'm replaying through Silent Hill 2, trying to get all the other endings that I did not get, and I love it. I love the aesthetic and everything, so that's just how I feel right now. So far, though, I think everything else is good. And I've wanted to upload my playthrough of it, but I've just not gotten around to it. I even said in the video where I was like, oh, I'm not going to be doing any more videos. I said I was going to at least upload this, and here I am procrastinating putting this out. It's a very Silent Hill inspired game, and it's also inspired by Neon Genesis Evangelion. So if you didn't know that, that's something cool to know. Super nice show. I would recommend it if you enjoy like psychological sci-fi shows. Definitely one of my favorites. I'm gonna be putting it probably above Alien Isolation right there. Alien Isolation is good, but the more I think about it, the more frustrating it can be. And again, it's just kind of long. I'm gonna put SIGNALIS right here. I think it takes a little too much inspiration from Silent Hill 2. Like, I think a lot of the enemies are just very, very reminiscent, like, not very different from Silent Hill 2. And, I wish it just had a little bit more originality to it. But otherwise, I think SIGNALIS is fantastic. I think the music, the art direction, holy cow, it's so good. I love it so much. I think the stories, for the most part, like, pretty original. SIGNALIS is a really good indie game, and I picked that up if you're itching for Silent Hill-esque content from horror games. Alright, this is Observer. I think this is the deluxe version, which I have not played. I've only ever played the original. I have to, like, pay for the remaster. I called it deluxe. It's not really a deluxe version. It's been a very, very long time since I've played this. This is probably one of the... this is probably like the second horror game I've ever played. And I'll probably put it right here. I think that's fair. It's another game by Bloober Team, the people who made Layers of Fear and Silent Hill 2 most recently. It's not much of a walking simulator, but there's like a very in-depth environment in which you are around. You're basically a detective who's able to enter the last moments of a victim's like psyche right before they died. You're trying to piece around like a murder in like a cyberpunk dystopian world. And I think it is really cool. Execution-wise, probably could have done a little better. It wasn't anything profound to me, and I think that's why I'm having it so low. Like, with a lot of these games, even though it's been years since I've played them, I can remember a lot. Now, this is a lot older for me. Like, I played this back in, like, 2017, around then, maybe. So, maybe I don't feel as much because it's been that long for this game, but with the other ones, I remember a lot, so maybe this one just wasn't as profound. And so that's why I don't feel as strongly about it. So I think right here is good. The story's cool. The aesthetic's nice. I like the theme of dystopian cyberpunk stuff. You don't see it very often in horror games. What other cyberpunk games are there? You have like Bioshock, but that's more like steampunk, I guess. SOMA. Frictional Games game. I don't know where Amnesia and all that is. I thought it would be all together. SOMA is my favorite horror game of all time. I think it is Frictional Games' most well thought out work, personally. And that's not to like discredit Amnesia, like Rebirth, which was pretty profound in its own way, but it was a little too story driven for my liking, and I feel like it kind of wasn't as good as a result. But SOMA, on the other hand, it had the right amount of story, the right amount of like horror and suspense, and I thought it crafted something really, truly amazing. SOMA is a game that I would probably watch just about anyone play. I've watched more people play SOMA than any other game on this list. I think, I want to say probably combined. A lot of my friends don't play horror games too much, so I've only seen people play like Resident Evil 1, 2, and that's like about it, really. It's very psychological horror focused, and it really, really makes you think, which is why I think I absolutely loved it so much. It was one of the first horror games I ever played. I was a little bit younger when I played it, and so the moral questions that it presents throughout the story, through its characters and world and events, really just has you to stop and just think about things even after you just like stop playing, whether like you're just taking a break or like you finish the game. Like it ends up continuing to just have some sort of an impact that sticks with you. I think that's why I really, really enjoy SOMA. It paints a narrative that I've never seen any other game do, and it feels really nice and original. It's not the scariest game, I would say, but there's a lot there. I wish I could say more, but I think I've really covered all of its bases. Bendy and the Ink Machine, I haven't really played this, but I kind of know enough about it. I'll put it here. It kind of came along in like the whole like mascot horror craze with Five Nights at Freddy's and Bendy and the Ink Machine, not Bendy and the Ink Machine, sorry, Baldi's Basics and all that. And it's unique enough to where I think it's cool, but it's not particularly anything insane or crazy. It has just like the aesthetic of like, you know, the 20th century cartoons and the ink flow on the page and cartoon shenanigans. I don't think it's particularly scary. There's another game that I've recently played that I think is very similar to this, and so I feel like by playing Bendy and the Ink Machine, I'd just be playing through that game over again. I don't know if it shows up on the list. I imagine it does, but I will make that comparison when it is necessary. Oh boy. The original Alan Wake. I'm putting this game probably here. I do not like Alan Wake that much. I was really excited to play it because Alan Wake 2 was announced at Game Awards or something, and I obviously had to play through the original, and I've only ever heard good about the original Alan Wake, but I was very disappointed by what I actually got. It's kind of like the theme is like TV drama, like American Twin Peaks kind of horror, but you have the whole like Silent Hill 2 and Dead Space thing where you're like trying to take care of your wife, and the story is that like you're a writer and that your novelization is kind of coming to life in the world around you, and you have to use the light to destroy the darkness. It's like Kingdom Hearts, but horror. And the horror of the game was pretty boring. The only time I really ever got scared in Alan Wake was because of a ambient noise that happens when you're next to like a lootable chest. 100% achievement unlock. Thank you. Damn it. Ah. Why? Stop your freaking breathing, whoever you are. Get me out of here. Oh my god. Oh, that freaked me the fuck out. I don't know why. It wasn't even like... It's not even just scary seeing one of these guys show up again. It's just this breathing that I'm hearing. Alright, we done with this breathing shit? Tripping me the fuck out? No, it's still going. Scariest part of the game so far. Oh my god. For no reason. Stop. Otherwise, there's just like a little bit of tension when like enemies are around you. And it's not particularly engaging or fun. Basically, the enemies are shadow guys, but they just show up and they sometimes spawn behind you, and then they throw axes at you, and you can avoid them by just shining your light at them, and then you just keep running, or you have to like dump ammo into them, and the combat's not really fun. I didn't have that much fun with it. It didn't feel very satisfying or as engaging as I maybe would have liked it to be. I should also mention that there's just a lot of frustrating moments in this game where the enemies will sometimes like stun lock you. There's a dodging mechanic that feels a little weird and wonky, and there are plenty of areas that add like a little, add like some random new thing, and it doesn't ever feel good. There's a spot where you have to fight like a big tractor that's being possessed. It was okay. I think it happens like 30 separate times. There's a spot where you're in a forest and there's bear traps everywhere, and it's like absurd how many bear traps are on the ground. It doesn't make any sense in like the real world that there's so many bear traps around when like there's like half a foot in between each bear trap. It's like, dude, what is going on? And then I remember there was a spot where you're traversing through the woods and there's like a trigger or something. And if you walk past it, enemies spawn behind you. And I would keep walking backwards to give myself room from the enemies, and I would end up just redoing the same trigger over and over again. And I didn't realize it until like probably, you know, like the third time. It's like, dude, either this spot is just really, really hard, or they quite literally forgot to just remove this dumb little trigger, and it didn't feel fun. I did not like it. I think the story is really the only thing Alan Wake has going for it. And even then, the main protagonist is kind of just like a douchebag. Like, I don't care about him. I feel like all the characters by themselves are like very tropish, which is part of like the theme. It's like, again, American TV drama, Twin Peaks, but I just didn't like it. And maybe it's partly because I don't sit down and watch TV dramas, American TV dramas, that much. They just tend to be a little long. They're good. Like, I've tried watching Breaking Bad and like Bates Motel and things like that, and I enjoyed them for a while, but I kind of just get tired of them after some time. So, unfortunately, I did not like Alan Wake that much, so I'm leaving it down there. I have not played Alan Wake 2, unfortunately. I've had it for way too long, though, and I need to start it. Once I finish Silent Hill 2, I think that'll be the next AAA title I work on. Oh yeah, Escape the Backrooms. It was like, okay. I'll put it right under Bending the Ink Machine. It's like silly, dumb, cooperative fun you play with your friends. Probably the most polished Backrooms game. So that's the highest reviews. I feel weird saying polished because there were a couple bugs when I played with my friends, and when they ended up refunding it after a while, but I kept it because I bought it in like a Humble Bundle pack, so I can't refund it. Alright, SCP Containment Breach. I'm so happy this list has this. When I was making like when I was trying to find a list for this video, I was looking for a list that included this, and I didn't think this had it. I was going to include it, at least at the end if it didn't. So this is nice to see. SCP Containment Breach. If you are around my age, you probably grew up with SCP to some degree. Especially when it was first coming out, the Flash game created by I forgot the developers. They made Borrowed Trauma though. I think over time it got a little saturated. And especially with all these other things that take like probably like super direct inspiration, like the Backrooms and like Doors. There's a lot of things that are coming out that are trying to replicate SCP that I don't think ever will, and I don't think should try to do so. Because SCP is kind of just like it is like the widest version of what like random anomaly scary thing can be, if that makes any sense. It's like wiki horror. You create a monster, you give it like a title, what it does, how it affects you, and then boom, you have like a wiki monster. And then SCP, the website, you know, just hosts all these lists of user created monsters and puts it together. And someone made a game out of it. The engine is absolutely terrible, but the actual like game itself I think is pretty good. It's a little cheesy because of its engine being kind of ass, and it really could have used like a better engine, and people have tried to replicate it through like SCP Unity, but unfortunately that project was discontinued. And I don't know if we will ever really see like a true, better SCP game. Which sucks because I really do like SCP. I liked it a lot more when I was younger because I think it was a little bit more fleshed out and wasn't so saturated, like I'm saying. But I do have to give credit where it is due. I think it was something truly, truly cool and unique. And it was really fun just running through this Foundation place and seeing all these monsters and stuff. I'm going to put SCP right here, right in front of Alien Isolation, right under SIGNALIS. Some of the downsides of SCP, like I said, is the engine. It's really ass, and they could not remake the game into a better engine. And the other bad thing is that with these kinds of like games where it's like wiki monster, part of the horror is like what feels like a never-ending nightmare of a like location. Like the SCP Foundation, it takes place in like a facility, and like you don't know where you're at, and all these other things. And like the Backrooms, it's like a horror maze. A lot of these games are just a little too maze-like, and I hate maze games. I don't think it's particularly interesting to just be running around aimlessly, just like waiting for like the next like big scary thing to happen. I think it's more fun to have like survival horror elements where like you have to get items and survive like the moment to moment as well, sort of thing. It's one of the reasons why I hope we never see like an SCP movie that takes place like in the facility, or like an SCP Containment Breach movie. Like a movie that takes place in the Foundation would be so annoying because half the movie would be the dude just like walking from room to room where like there's nothing happening. It wouldn't be good. I'm sure there could be an SCP movie that's done right, but I think it'd be pretty hard. GTFO, or more appropriately, get the fuck out. I'll put an okay. That's probably where I would put it. I've only ever played like maybe 2 hours of this game. It's another horde shooter, but this is a horde shooter that I think is appropriately horror focused. You are extremely limited on ammo, on intel, and you're trying to be as stealthy as possible in missions with your friends, trying to like extract objects or whatever the fuck. There's many objectives, and it's just tense, and it feels nice. My problem is that, from what I've heard, it does get a little stale after a while. There's not much difference in like the moment to moment, even later on in the game. I don't think the environments themselves are too interesting, and maybe I didn't get far enough. And this was a game that I was excited for because I was looking at it before it released, and I think it's cool. I don't think I have the game anymore. I think I played it when it was like a free-to-play weekend or something. But it's a game I could see myself playing like every now and then, but not like super recommending to my friends and watching them play and all these other sorts of things. Cry of Fear. I have not played through the actual campaign. I've only ever played the multiplayer. I'm just going to leave this here for now. I know if there's like Cry of Fear fans in here, maybe they'd be probably a little upset. Or maybe this is a good spot for it. I don't know. I don't know what the Cry of Fear fan base looks like. But I like the aesthetic. It's like a more urban... yeah, it's like a urban, like more horror-focused game. It's like a Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 mod? I don't know which one. And it has some like inspiration from Silent Hill. You can definitely see it. And I think it's cool for what it is. It's a free horror game. You know, who could complain? Oh, Outlast. Here we go. So my opinion of Outlast isn't as high as I think a lot of people have Outlast. Where I will put it is probably high B. At the time when Outlast was coming out, it was definitely like the game to be talking about because it was vastly different than what we were used to. It's very heavy hitting, it's very fast. Definitely does not hold anything back. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of wanted when they played a horror game. And it made a lot of people who have never played a horror game ever before play it, probably get into it, and a lot of people probably a reason to never play horror games again. I took a long time to play Outlast because I was so scared. I think I played Outlast. Did I play Outlast before Amnesia, actually? That's kind of weird to think about. I can't remember. I think it should be the opposite. Amnesia is like a little bit more of a slower burn. The original Outlast is pretty good, all things considered. I think where my issue lies is that I don't particularly find the story to be too interesting, and I think like the characters just could have like been a little bit more interesting. I don't particularly find myself like gawking at any of the characters in Outlast as much as a lot of people do, and that's fine. I think the whole like night vision camera thing is really cool. I think the horror is pretty nice. You kind of get used to it after a while because it's so in your face so often. But there are a lot of sequences that are like pretty good. But again, it's mainly the story that I don't particularly enjoy that much. I think it could have been a little bit more, in depth. Outlast Whistleblower is basically just like, for me, a slightly better Outlast. I think the character enemies are a little bit more interesting. I like how the story ends for Whistleblower. Outlast 2, I actually like a little more than the original Outlast, and that'll probably ruffle some feathers. Man, I know a lot of people don't like Outlast 2 that much, mainly because of its ending, its pacing, and just how different it is from the first Outlast. But I think that's just what I liked about it. I liked that it was different than the original Outlast. I thought the characters were slightly more interesting compared to the first. Even like the protagonist and his stuff, I thought was really cool. But you also just have a more interesting environment, I would say. And a definitely more beautiful looking game. I would say that as well. I am like a sucker for like pretty looking games, so maybe that has a little bit to do with it. Yeah, that's probably where I'll keep Outlast 2. And then we have one more Outlast game. Where was it? Outlast Trials? I don't really know where to put this. It's scary. It's like an Outlast game, but it's like co-op multiplayer, and so sometimes the horror is a little knocked down. I think that's probably fair. Like, I think this is like a good fun game, but it's not particularly scary. It's multiplayer Outlast, just like skills and like cosmetics, and there's less cool. There's not as many cool characters, I would say, in the Trials, but I mean, they still are updating the game. I think they recently came out with a third main antagonist that you can play against in the Trials, the levels of the game. These are like visual novels.沙耶の唄, aka the Song of Saya. Saya no uta, meaning Saya's song, quite literally. It is a... let me figure out where I want to put this first before I do anything. I'll put it in good, probably. I think... do I want to put it lower? I'll probably put it lower. Maybe like right there. Definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea because now I'm going to be going slightly into visual novels, which are basically Japanese books with visuals and music. Saya no Uta is an eroge visual novel, meaning there is depictions of sex. There's a lot of nudity. Saya no Uta is especially pretty fucked up in its subject matter, but I think it is also quite interesting for that exact reason. Basically, you play as, just for like a little small intro, because I think it is an interesting intro, and if I can get people to play it, I think it'd be cool. You play as a guy, I think his last name is Fuminori, and he was in a car accident that had him undergo some kind of like a brain surgery in order for him to survive. If he didn't get the surgery, he would have passed away. And after he gets the surgery, his life is changed drastically. The entire world around him, the physical world, is a contorted mess of flesh and fat and like blood. Is amalgamation of just like horror. And it doesn't end there. The people around him, like his best friends, are also just like unspeakable monsters of like flesh. And he can understand them only slightly because they still have some semblance of like human to them, but yet they look so utterly terrible and incomprehensible. But yeah, he doesn't say anything or do anything because he doesn't want to get put into like a psychiatric facility. So he pretends like everything's fine, even though the world around him is like collapsing. However, his one saving grace is this girl that he meets named Saya, who to him is just like a normal girl. And he's able to confide in her, and she helps him out and kind of comforts him in this kind of world. But Saya knows a little bit more than she leads on. And that's really all I have to say for it. I think, again, the story's pretty interesting, pretty cool. It's a little too short for me. I like my stories to be a little bit longer, so there's a little bit more to digest and more theme and story development, character development that can happen. I think沙耶の唄has some decent bits of it, but if it was a little bit longer, I think it would have been cool. It also has like multiple endings, so if you're into stories like that, go ahead. Again, though, it is a rogue, so if you're not comfortable with like anime, porn, probably don't read it. I don't blame you. Alright, the original Corpse Party. Where do I put this? I'll put it there. So I am taking a little bit of my reasoning from Aesthetic Gamer, also known as Dust Golem on social media. He's like really cool content creator. He plays just about any horror game if you can think of it. And when he rated Corpse Party, he gave basically that it's like a RPG Maker horror game, but the execution of some things is really strange. And I never really thought about it because I grew up into Corpse Party a little bit. I got into it when I was way too young. Let's just say that. And it's because like PewDiePie played it or something. And I don't think it's like a super bad thing that I got into it, but it definitely has a lot of weird stuff that I did not recognize was kind of weird and bad until a little bit later in my life when I was a little bit older. But the creator has some very weird fetishes that show up in their games. I'm not going to go into those, but they're very weird, gross. Legal is pretty questionable. Yeah. Corpse Party is also just like a little too anime tropey. I like Japanese anime and these TV shows and these stories, but too much really turns me off. Like I hate characters that fit into like, tsundere and like kudere, all these like weird terms, and they don't feel like human. I guess they feel like an anime character, and I hate it. And Corpse Party does that a lot, unfortunately. Some characters are better than others, and there's some characters that are especially trying to appeal to specific tropes that people like in their anime and shit, and I'm not a big fan of it. Corpse Party also has a problem that some other games in this tier list have, and I like to call it like a spin-off hell. Course Party has like tons of like side games that some are canon, some aren't canon. Maybe some are only partly canon, and it's just too much. It's too much to do, and you have to have certain consoles to play some. Resident Evil has this. Resident Evil 4, you have to play like some weird side game. Is it even a game? It's like understand one of the characters, and it's cringe. I don't like when games do that, because not everyone has the time and money to get all these different consoles and play all these silly, goofy side games. I don't know, I just don't like it that much. Alright, next we have Iwaihime. I think it translates to like Celebration Princess. Yeah, Celebration Princess is a game written by Ryukishio 7, the creator of Higurashi and Umineko. Other smaller games like Higambana no Sakuyoro ni and Rose Guns Days, and the soon-to-be Silent Hill F. Super excited for that. He is probably my favorite author of all time, and he created the story for a little small visual novel called Iwaihime. This is not an eroge visual novel, so if you don't want porn in your games, this is a pretty good one to play. If I were to place it anywhere, I'll probably put it right here. No. Is right there fine? Right there's probably fine. It's mainly like a love story more than anything, but it has a lot to do with like Japanese urban legends and curses and feudal Japanese history, I think. So definitely go into it if like you enjoy learning about Japanese culture to some degree. There's like a DLC. It's kind of like slightly like harem-y. You play as a dude and you have like multiple different girls that you go and talk to, and you learn their backstories through their routes. And I'm not a big fan of that kind of medium, but I don't think it does it in a distasteful way. So if you don't mind that, I think it could be a good game. And with most of these like visual novels, they're not particularly like scary, but they are kind of tense, and you kind of want to know like, oh, the character's going to be okay. You want to know what happens to them. They have intriguing stories, but I wouldn't say they're specifically like horrifying. Like, you know, they're not going to be like jump scaring you or making you mash buttons or shooting enemies, because they're visual novels, they're books. You know, I think they are worth getting into for their own reasons. Oh boy. Alright, here we go. Higurashi no na頃に. Shit, where do I put this, man? Because I absolutely love this game, and I love its show. Probably my favorite anime of all time. Also written by Ryukishio 7. And just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to say this is all of Higurashi. Excluding like stupid side stories that are mainly like fan service. I'm going to put it in... For like horror, I'll put it in B. I absolutely love the story, and I like the horror aspects of it. Some stuff is a little questionable, especially in the side stories. A lot of dumb stuff, a lot of fan service. Don't really like it, but if you are just watching or reading the original Higurashi no na頃にand not delving into that, I think you get a really cool, kind of like isolationist murder mystery. Closed circle murder mystery is like a better word to describe it. Where like everything happens in one spot, no one can escape, and it's really cool. It's very long, I should say that. It's like 100 hours long for all 8 chapters of like the main story. It unfortunately has spin-off hell aspects, so definitely don't get into it if you want to get through everything. There's way too much. You need like PS Vita, PlayStation 3, all kinds of dumb shit. And yeah, I think phenomenal story though. But in like a horror tier list, I think B is probably where it should stay. Also, I should say, not that it particularly matters, but Higurashi, the art style, originally made by Ryukishio 7, is not super appealing. If you mod the game, you can change it. just to let you know. IB or IB? I think it's IB. I will put IB. I think that's good. IB is another RPG Maker horror game, you know, like into Corpse Party. So top down, pixelated. Trying to think of all the aspects of RPG Maker horror games, kind of like anime, because most of these are Japanese games. IB takes place in a art museum. It's pretty art focused in its theming, and I think it's really cool. A couple of different endings. It's pretty short, and there's only a few characters, but I don't think it's anything terrible. Definitely like a must play if you enjoy playing RPG Makers. It's been a super long time since I played it, so I don't remember too much. It came out on Steam in like a remake not too long ago. Maybe I can replay it on there if I feel like it. Next we have Misao. This is one of the games I have on my channel. It's like okay. Shit, I don't know. Probably like here. Only slightly better than Corpse Party. Misao, it's too like kawaii anime trope. It's like Corpse Party, maybe a little worse. But Misao doesn't have like weird fetish shit in it, so I think it's a lot better. I don't like RPG Maker horror games where like half of the things you interact with in your environment will kill you. I get that that's the appeal for some people, so they can like look at like an all death scene, and I just kind of want to get through the story and everything. I'm not really interested in seeing all these interesting scenes. You know, teach their own. And Misao is just one of those games where, you know, if you interact with shit, you die really often. There's a lot of characters in Misao. I didn't particularly care for any of them, and I think that's just where I will keep that game. There's like a post-game story that you can go through. I did not. Once I was done with the game, I was like, I think I'm finished. I think I'm alright. If I really feel like it, I'll go back to it one day, but... Alright, Aoni. Shit, maybe like... I think this game's funny. Fuck it, this is my horror game tier list. I don't care what anyone says. Aoni's funny. Aoni, meaning blue demon, even though he looks purple. Classic RPG Maker horror game. Takes place like in a house. If I assume it has to do with like curses. I've never actually played through it, but I've watched like YouTubers play through it, Markiplier, whatever, probably plenty of people in my youth, and I always thought it was like kind of scary, kind of silly, especially like look at that face. How do you take this seriously? But it was funny for the time, and it was probably a little scary for the time, being such a young age. And I think its influence in like pop culture and like horror media is just way too funny to like ignore. So I'm gonna leave it there. The Witch's House is another game that took me a really long time to play, and if I'm not wrong, it is in the same universe or so as Mad Father, which I have not played. That was down here though too, I think. Yeah, Mad Father right here. The Witch's House, I did not like as much as IB. I'll probably put it here. Yeah, I'll put it at the end. It's another game where the environment kills you very often. I think the theme is kind of cool. It's like a gothic horror aesthetic to it, which I think is nice. Comparing to other RPG Maker horror games, it's not nearly as like anime kawaii, which I enjoyed. I liked a lot. I will say though, and it's a little hard to talk about, I have a playthrough of this game on my channel, and I will not be uploading it. But in my playthrough, I had a hard time focusing on the story with my commentary, because I had a friend like watching me play through it, and it was really hard to keep track of the story while I was commentating and talking to this friend. So I don't know if the story was not interesting or if I was just so focused on commentating that I just didn't retain much of what happened. I have like a small gist of the story. Maybe the story's just not that good. I don't know. But that's just where I'm going to leave that. I saw some more interesting things down here, personally. This is Gore Screaming Show. I don't know, probably. What did I like more? Maybe I like this a little more than沙耶の唄. Yeah, that's probably fine. Gore Screaming Show is a rogue. There's porn in this game. It's kind of similar to Iwaihime in that you play as like a dude and he has like girls to like choose and go down their paths. But I should also mention that there is Guro in this game. Guro meaning like gore porn. You can censor it, which I certainly did, because that shit is absolutely terrible. I hate looking at it. I should say that I think there was a lot that this game had going for it, but in the same way that沙耶の唄execution was a little bad, I think that this game also had a pretty lackluster execution of its horror themes. Not for the same reason of沙耶の唄, because沙耶の唄just wasn't long enough. This game I just don't think did it, because maybe they just had like a different story in mind. For a small synopsis, you're like a high school student, you meet girls in your class who you have different relationships and histories with. They all kind of fit like anime tropes of characters. You have like a fateful interaction with this one girl in particular who ends up creating like a catalyst for a very, very horrific future for the character, where you are being not directly pursued, but you're kind of being sought after by a killer clown called Gore. And he is pretty unnerving looking, to say the least. To me, I think he looks pretty scary. Not like, shiver me timbers scary, but like, I think he's like a little nerve-wracking if you're in a scene with him. So I think it's pretty cool, but I don't think they did as much with some of the horror themes and Gore himself as they probably could have to make him and other things more interesting. But if you feel like playing it, that's for you to play. Wonderful Everyday Down the Rabbit Hole, or Subarashiki Hibi. We'll put this probably here. No, I probably like these games more. This is the most recent visual novel I've played and finished. Another rogue game. If you don't like nudity, don't play it. It's very, very, very philosophical in nature. And it feels weird to say this, but you have to be pretty intellectual in my head to play this. Either very intellectual or very knowledgeable on like some philosophical texts and like more classical texts as well, like Alice in Wonderland, to understand some of the themes of the story. And that's not to say it was bad or anything, but I feel like some aspects you won't really get without having that foreknowledge going into them. Characters, kind of anime, don't really care for anyone that much. This game also has a lot of H scenes, as I will say going forward, if I have to. The nude scenes that just are, I feel like, are just there just to like get a shock out of you. I don't think they were necessary, and I think they kind of pad the game. I actually finished this game a lot faster than most people because I skipped, like, I just fast forwarded like some of these scenes because they were just they felt very nonsensical, and you just gotta be careful with those. Otherwise though, I think some of like the psychological themes of this game are pretty cool, and if I understood the more thematic narrative themes. That sounded so weird to say. You know what I mean. If I understood those better, I'd probably like the game more. But it was okay. But to each their own. I think that's all the visual novels, but there is one game that I do want to add that I am not seeing here. Here we go. Okay, I added it. This is You and Me and Her, what I think is going to be the last visual novel on here that I have fully read. I'm going to put it in a probably there. I really, really enjoyed this, but I'm not going to put it too high, just for like general consensus. You and Me and Her, once again, another eroge visual novel. It is, without going too deep into it, because if I go any amount of deep into it, you are going to get spoiled. You and Me and Her is a game that you will go into expecting one thing and get completely thrown out of the fucking park on like anything else you've probably ever played. There is one game out there that is very similar to it, and it was very popular, and if I say it, it'll just absolutely, you'll know what to expect, and I cannot say it. You and Me and Her, it's available on Steam. You can download a patch for the H content, which I would recommend getting because you miss out on some of the story. You can say the same thing for like most of these games. You definitely want to get the patch with the nudity, because without them, you'd miss out on like some story beats. So as long as you're okay with some anime nudity, you know, I would definitely go ahead and get that so you can get the whole story. I have had one friend play it, and they were absolutely amazed by it. And I hope maybe one day I can get more friends to play it, because holy shit, this game is absolutely wild. In its story, its execution, it is good. I wouldn't say it's like the most scary thing, but it's hard hitting. It is jaw dropping, and it will freak you out in ways that I don't think most people are like ready for. You and Me and Her, or Totono as it is also known as, is definitely a must play in my book. Dark Deception I think I could put in here. I've not like actually played this game, but it's cool, I guess. I'll leave it in okay. Dark Deception, it's like a maze horror game. It has a lot of different levels, so it's kind of like arcadey in a way. You have to get like gems to like win, and you have like power-ups. Each level has like a distinct enemy. One, you have to like look at the enemy or else they'll follow you, kind of like SCP-173 or like the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. Some enemies are just like, they just chase you, and there's like many of them. It's cool. It's not anything particularly interesting. I think there is like a story, but I don't think it's anything, you know, that's like new or refreshing, so that's just that. Hey, what's going on, guys? Editing Juan here, and I just wanted to let you guys know that the rest of this video will be a little off. For some reason, when I added You and Me and Her, or Totono, into this, it kind of just like disappeared next time I launched the tier list. I don't know what happened to it. There's some other things I also wanted to add, like well after I finished recording everything, so I'm probably just gonna either put those back in at the end, or maybe upload those as like YouTube shorts. I haven't really decided. I'll probably just add them at the end, but I guess you'll see when I get there. I'm thinking I might push down Alien Isolation a little more. I think that's about it, and I hate doing that. But the more I think about Alien Isolation, the more I'm just like, I mean, it was a good game, but I do have like a good bit of qualm about it, so I think that'll be it for now. Maybe I'll change my mind again soon eventually, but I'm just going to keep going down the list. Do I have Dark Deception on here? Yeah, put in C. I'll actually change that. I'm gonna push Dark Deception down. I don't think it's that good. I don't know why I put it this high. That's probably fine. Among the Sleep, this is an oldie. So, like, even this is kind of weird to just drop in here, but I'll leave it right there. Actually, I'll put it right here. It's pretty influential. I know that. I know it's probably a lot of people's, like, first horror game because they watched someone play it. Alright, here we go. Here's some stuff that I can actually do. Here we have Penumbra. I have only played the first one as of right now. I finished it earlier this year, so I'm pretty proud of myself. It's Frictional Games, like, first series, maybe even first game. The people who made Amnesia. I'll leave it probably here. I think it was okay. It's definitely an older game, and you can see it. The first game also doesn't have anything particularly memorable about it, compared to some of the other ones where the monster is a little bit more unique, let's just say that, and looks different compared to some of the things in Penumbra Overture. So, I mean, I'm excited to play the second game eventually. For now, my experience with Penumbra is like, okay. Hello Neighbor, dude, this is like, it's like half a horror game. I'm gonna put Hello Neighbor like down there. It's probably like mechanically pretty fun because it's like physics puzzles and shit like that, but it has such a weird development history, and it's also pretty like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it kind of targets children. So I'm not like a huge fan of that happening. Here we go. Little Nightmares. I've only played the first one. But for Little Nightmares... Oops. Oh my gosh, where did that go? Is it still there? Oh no, I lost it. Okay. Here's Little Nightmares. I'm gonna be careful this time. I'm going to... So, I got this game for free. There was a point in time a couple of years ago, like 2021, where it was free to keep if you downloaded it within like a couple of days. And you know, back then I wasn't working. I was still in like high school, and so I had like a real random annoyance with how much it cost for how short it was. Little Nightmares I think is like maybe 3 hours or so, and it's like $20, and so I felt kind of disappointed. But over time I've kind of learned that, or I've changed my position on that, where it's like, you know, the longer a game is with quality, I feel like the more it's worth your money. And Little Nightmares was quality throughout the entire game. It was never bad. And I still feel like, you know, it's a little much, but that shouldn't like change how I feel about like the actual gameplay itself. If you're gonna buy something, just give a review based on its like quality, and then you can, you know, judge its price and stuff afterward. I don't think they should be compared to or put into like the same part of your review. So anyway, Little Nightmares 2, it's a very charming game if you haven't played it. It's like a side scroller, but it has a distinct look and feel to it that's very nice. And so if you need like a first time horror game to play, I think Little Nightmares would actually be pretty good. I'm gonna put it probably here. I think that's fair. Video Horror Society. This is so sad. I don't know if we'll ever find a game that lasts longer than Dead by Daylight, and there's so many like licensed killers and stuff, so I think Dead by Daylight's probably gonna stick around for quite a long time unless some other game can do it better and just do balancing. But anyway, I'm not talking about Dead by Daylight right now. I'm talking about Video Horror Society. VHS for short, I guess. It's just another asymmetrical horror game where it's you versus other people, and it did not survive, unfortunately. I have never played it, but considering that it didn't survive, I would assume there was some problems within it. But I also don't want to say that, because it might just be the fact that Dead by Daylight just crushes its competition, apparently. So, I'll leave it in good for now. I know it's a very weird reason to do it, but it's my tier list, okay? I'm sorry. Labyrinthine. It's a multiplayer maze game. That's all I really need to say about it. Also, I think I'm going to push the Outlast Trials. I'm going to move some stuff around. Here. I'll put Layers of Fear. Here. Move the Outlast Trials up a little too. I hate putting so many games in B, but look, my opinion's changing. And I'm thinking about like how much fun I have in some of these games, so that's just where I'm at. Labyrinthine, it's a maze game. You play with your friends. It's like good, it's fun. You can be pretty, scary and whatever, but it's also like a maze game, so it's like pretty boring. Deceit, do I really count this? I don't know. I mean, I guess it is like pretty horror focused. I'll leave it there. It's a social deception horror game where you and 5 other people are put into like an arena, and 2 of you are monsters, 4 of you are, regular dudes, and you have to escape while trying not to die and figure out who's the monster among you. It's a pretty decent game if you have friends to play with, but God, just all these social deception games, as soon as you join like public games, it's like terrible. Dead by Daylight, today, probably C. I used to be a big fan of Dead by Daylight back in the day. I played around the time when, oh my gosh, when did I start playing Dead by Daylight? It was so early on, like 2017, 2018, around then, I think. I think it was 2017 when I bought it, but I only played it in 2018 because I had a better computer back then. I had gotten a better computer back then. So, I'm definitely like an older school player before all these like Chucky and Alien came out, and Dead by Daylight used to be really good, and I think it still has some good qualities, but it is such a buggy mess every update that the developers end up alienating people and player bases and only giving in to those who want more cosmetics and more licensed killers and things like that. And it works. It crushes the competition, like I was saying, with like VHS and even Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I don't really know if we're going to see that here. Probably will. But people keep feeding into that. Even though Dead by Daylight has this kind of thing where I feel like a lot of people who play the game actually kind of don't like it. It's kind of like the whole meme with like people who play like League of Legends, where it's like, they're like masochists and hate themselves. I think there's like same kind of feeling with Dead by Daylight for a lot of the player base. And I think they're only really interested in because of like the aesthetic of just like having all these cosmetics and cool like characters you've seen on TV, and I don't know. I feel weird like seeing people play Dead by Daylight being like a horror fan, and then like the only game they play is Dead by Daylight. So it's like, are you really like a horror influencer or a horror, connoisseur? Not to gatekeep, but that's just how I feel about it. And like I was saying, there's constant bugs with every chapter, and they release 4 chapters a year. It's like about every 3 months they have a new killer who has new perks, whose chapter has like a new survivor and a new map. And they spend so much time focusing on this that these bugs that this game is riddled with don't really get fixed. This is also not to mention that they have numerous seasonal events every year. It's cool, but you have to focus on the problems that have not been addressed for like years now and fix them. Maybe skip a chapter. People are going to be okay. People are going to come back. People are going to spend money. It'll suck being without a chapter for a little longer, but I don't think anything's going to happen to your precious game. And I think that's just where I feel what I feel. It's also just been too bogged down by, I think, all the cosmetics. And normally, like, I don't mind cosmetics, but there's a particular, like, feel that I want Dead by Daylight to have that it's just lost over the years. And I want it to feel more like a horror game, and You know, a lot of people will say like Dead by Daylight is not a horror game, and I think it kind of used to be, at least, a lot more than it is today. It has definitely lost that shine because of just its rampant, flashy, fucking cosmetics and stuff. Okay, we do have Texas Chainsaw Massacre here. Friday the 13th, I will play. I've not played this either, but I've watched enough people play it. And ironically, probably here. Friday the 13th was not nearly as bad as Dead by Daylight was with cosmetics. I don't know if the game's still up. I know there was like an issue with copyright for the game, and so I think it got shut down for a while. It's not nearly as popular anymore, unfortunately, but the general gist of the game was so much better. It was like semi-open world, kind of. You know, it was an open world in the camp. Like, there was different houses you can go into. You had to, like, barricade, and, you know, you had different weapons, and you could drive and flee away with your friends or accidentally run someone over. It was so cool. You had so much freedom when it came to the game. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I always had so much fun watching people play, because I was always thinking, like, what are they gonna do? It was awesome. Dead by Daylight, dude, you just run around the map and either do generators or, you know, fucking flip pallets. There's not too much to that game, I'm sorry. So, I do probably like Friday the 13th more, even though I never played it. Monstrum, I've watched enough people play it, at least, to have a feeling on it. It kind of reminds me of Amnesia the Bunker a little, now that I think about it. I'll leave it here. It's a very old, charming game. And I've actually played... I don't know if you guys know what this game is. It's a video game called Blockland. It used to be, like, semi-popular back in the day, and it kind of just had its own little group of players that stuck around over time, and it's certainly, like, dead now, but back then there was a small little community where people played, like, games together on it. It was basically a brick sandbox game, and someone had recreated Monstrum in Blockland, and it was my first experience playing Monstrum, kind of, because I don't actually own the game, and that was really cool. And seeing that there was an actual game of the Blockland game, it was really cool. But anyway, Monstrum itself takes place on a ship. There's different endings, different monsters. I think that's really cool. It's like kind of open world. I really like that, and maybe there should be more games like it. Is the moment to moment great? Not particularly, but you know, when the monster is around and you have to like hide somewhere and like you don't know where the fuck you are, it's kind of cool. So I kind of like Monstrum for that, and I wish more games kind of took its approach, just, you know, with like a better engine and stuff, because the game was a little buggy as far as I'm aware. Last Year the Nightmare is another like asymmetrical horror game that came out. This game looked cool. I'm kind of sad it never stuck around. I'll probably leave that here too. I probably like Monstrum more. I care for the single player games a lot more than I do the multiplayer. That's just me. I don't remember much about it though. The level design was cool. It took place, you know, in like a college campus or a high school campus, and it was like a pretty large map. You had like different abilities, different killers, and things you could do. You had to craft items and weapons, as far as I'm aware. Okay, I'm gonna put Friday the 13th ahead because I like that more, definitely. Hide and Shriek. It's a goofy little multiplayer game where you just fight your friend and try to scare them. It's okay. It's like a game you'll play like a couple of times and then you'll just drop it because there's not really much to it. Here we have Until Dawn. A game I have not played, but I've definitely watched enough of. I know I've like watched a lot of these games, and I'm sorry. This game is cool. It's a not choose your adventure, but it's like a choices matter game where like your decisions affect the characters, and it's inspired by like B movies and campy shit. And so you get to play as a bunch of different like teenage boys and girls and trying to survive a very frightful night on a mountain. Let's just say that. Definitely a must play if you have the time and you don't mind seeing a couple characters you like die, probably. So definitely a must play. I think it's a great game. It recently came out with a remaster which was well received, I think, by people who cared about Until Dawn. But for those who wanted to like kind of get a whole new experience out of it or something really crazy, I think people were a little disappointed. The Quarry I've played earlier this year, the first of their games I've actually played. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's definitely rushed compared to Until Dawn though, and I really wanted to be like a spiritual successor, or you know, just like a sequel kind of like Until Dawn. Not a direct sequel, but you know, like the second game and like their big hitters. And it definitely didn't hit as big. The characters, I feel, are for the most part fine, but there's a lot of things that definitely could have been fleshed out and improved upon that they just didn't. And the game kind of ends on such a weird and random note, and it doesn't have a climax that Until Dawn has. It kind of just ends. And, you know, you're like, wow, that was it? It did alright. It did okay. But, I mean, I'm leaving it above okay here, because, I mean, I still think it did really good. I will push it down a little, though, probably here. Alright, Omori. What do I think about Omori? For a horror game, I think it's pretty good. It's a RPG Maker horror game, probably one of the most popular of all time now. It has a very particular charm to it and aesthetic. It was in development since like 2013, 2014, something like that. It took a very long time to come out. But I'm glad they took their time on it, because it is truly like a very fantastic game. I 100%ed it. Took me about like 5 runs to do, and I don't ever want to see more of Omori. You know, love to my friends, but oh my gosh, if I see more Omori, I think I'm gonna puke. To also solidify my appreciation and love for Omori just a little bit more, I have spent probably hundreds of dollars on Omori merchandise, which there's plenty of. But aside from that, the actual game, the story is absolutely fantastic. The art direction is absolutely fantastic. Is it scary? I wouldn't say so. It's definitely unnerving, and its subject matter is definitely something that can be like nauseous and eerie. But Omori by itself is like a horror game, maybe like a fifth of its gameplay, or like a tenth. I don't know. Depending on how long you play. There's multiple endings if you like that though. And you know, when the horror sections are there, they do feel good. But I wouldn't say it's primarily a horror game. It's more of like a narrative experience. I mean, its narrative experience is horror focused, but I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna rile some feathers saying that, but that's how I feel. And where on the list would I place it? Probably B. And I love this game more. Like if this was just a general tier list of games, it would be higher. But this is like horror game tier list, so I'm gonna leave it there. Oh, that is World of Horror. Okay, I thought it looked like World of Horror. Wait, why did Monstrum come all the way down here? Monstrum I thought was like up here, probably. Shit, where do I want to put Monstrum? I think I like that more. World of Horror, I will leave probably here. When you go to the store page for World of Horror, you see something that looks really intriguing. It is a point-and-click text-based, or is it really text-based? It's a point-and-click adventure game with pixelated graphics that takes place in Japan and is inspired by Junji Ito stories, which, you know, all take place in Japan and feature cosmic horror and all kinds of good stuff. And it is a brilliant game artistically. I have some merchandise for World of Horror as well, and I think it looks phenomenal. But the actual gameplay itself is kind of lackluster, and if you're not expecting it, you will probably be disappointed. It's like D&D. It's like a D&D roguelite where you have an event. You have like 5 mysteries you have to solve, and you have to go to different locations and get different items that will help you get different endings or help your chances of success during like skill checks and battles with enemies, and it's not thrilling to play. Getting through some encounters feels really cool because it's like, oh man, I survived, but like it's not a game that you're gonna feel a lot playing, if that makes any sense. It's a game I feel like I can take at very face value, and I don't like taking games at face value because I want to be able to like think about things outside the box and make my own conclusions or have the freedom to do certain things. And World of Horror kind of has that, but not in a way that people, like I was saying, are expecting when they install the game. And I think I was one of those people. It's still fun, don't get me wrong. There's lots of different endings. It's a roguelite, so there's like unlockables if you get certain endings or do certain things, which is cool. I love that. That tickles my brain. But it definitely will not be the case for a lot of people going into it. That's how I feel. Scrutinized. Have you seen enough of this game? I think I have. I watched some people play it. I'll put it C tier. It's made by the person or people who made Welcome to the Game, that series, and I think it's cool. It's definitely one of their lesser works because it's just smaller in scale compared to like Welcome to the Game, where you have different enemies, different locations, different jobs and tasks to do. This one kind of reminds me of like Papers, Please, and it's like simplicity, and there's only like one or maybe two, I guess, different antagonists to watch out for. Here we go. Welcome to the Game. Oh. I don't really remember much of the first game. It seemed kind of cool. It's just a game where like you're hacking or you have to like solve some kind of mystery, I forgot, at your computer at home, and well, getting on the deep web's not very safe, is it? Somehow you live next to like a bunch of like hackers and thieves and ne'er-do-wells, and so they kind of try to kill you while you're doing all this stuff because fuck it, I don't know, you figured them out. And they're evil and bad, so yeah, basically your house is getting attacked, try to hack shit and do something. And then Welcome to the Game 2 is the same thing, except it takes place in like a huge apartment building or hotel or something. Where was that game? Here we go. There's a lot more to it though, which I think is really cool. Now, one of the bad things about Welcome to the Game 2, I'll say, I think they're kind of the same, is that aside from like its vast improvements and additions, it has a problem where the developer has gone out. Okay, how do I explain this? Basically, when you launch the game and you have a run, there's a specific like key to your game save that the developer can edit and change on his side if they feel like it. Basically, when you launch the game and you start a game, let's just say create a new game, a like hash or a key is made for that saved game called like XYZ. The developer can see I guess maybe a list of all these hashed keys and whatever, and can edit some of the characteristics or events in your game. Like he will enter XYZ and edit values or whatever. And supposedly, the developer, or I think it was confirmed, the developer would go into the keys of streamers who were streaming the game, who did not like the game, and would change the values to make the game harder, or do like kind of mean-spirited shit to them because they didn't like the game that much. Which, you know, if you can't take criticism, that's not good. That's such a bad look going forward. And I think they got backlash for it. I don't know if they ever apologized for it or anything, but you know, you definitely don't want to do that. That's not the way to go about it. Devour. It's like another multiplayer horror game. It's okay. When I first played it, I thought it was pretty cool, but the more I played with other people, the more I was like, it's alright. There's a lot of interesting, like, places, maps, killers, I guess, monsters that hunt you down when you're playing with your friends, but it gets very tough. And, one of the things I've mentioned before is the worst thing a horror game can do is be frustrating. And I think Devour always, without fail, gets to a point where it is frustrating, at least a little bit. And so it really tones down the horror, I think, a lot, significantly. And so I will drop it probably like here, somewhere here. Move, Bendy. It's probably fine. I think it's cool, but it's also like one of those games where I feel like you play it a couple times and you're like, I'm fine with just like not playing it again. I wouldn't be distraught over, oh man, I can't play Devour ever again. Pacify, it's like the same thing. I've never actually played this game myself, but I've watched people play it. Probably the same thing, if not worse, because it's like, I think only one map, maybe? Forgive me if I'm wrong. Forewarned? This is just Egyptian phasmophobia. It's okay. Better than Labyrinthine, I'd say. It's just you go to like Egypt or like Egyptian places, underground tombs and caverns and shit, and you figure out who the ghost is out of a list of like 8, and you try to banish them and get gold and jewels and upgrade your shit. I don't know, it's alright. And speaking of phasmophobia, I wonder where you think it's gonna go compared to Forewarned. Probably there. I think overall people will have a lot of fun playing Phasmophobia, but a lot of the fun kind of comes from getting really in-depth into how to figure out what the ghost is. Like, it's a game where you have to like min-max a little your knowledge, find out what the ghost is, what they look like. I don't actually know if the look matters, but like how they interact with the environment, where the best spot to put things is. And I feel like for a lot of people that could be fun, but it's not something I enjoy too much. And Phasmophobia, I think, really loses its horror factor after enough runs, because the actual scary moments are like a little tense, a little frightening, but after you see the ghost just like slowly walk towards you and like blink, it's not particularly frightening. I think Phasmophobia really needs a bump and it's like horror. Give the monsters like animations or jump scares, I would say, even. Because like, I don't mind jump scares. I think if you get caught, you should be jump scared. But the Phasmophobia doesn't have that. Phasmophobia, you get caught by the blinking, scary, slow-walking ghost. They disappear, your eyes get covered by them, and then you get like teleported away. It's like, oh, I'm a ghost now. Now I'm spectating my friends. And I know it could do better, and I would very, very, very much love the game more if it was like that, but it's just not. There's a lot of different ghosts, there's a lot of cool locations to play Phasmophobia. Like a lot of maps, that's what I'm trying to say. But the horror, man, I would love this game so much more if it was just better in that way, and it's not. Also, like, the characters move kind of slow and they look a little weird. It kind of throws me off, but that's a little bit more nitpicky. I see content warning here, but I don't see Lethal Company. I don't know. Content warning was, oh man, I actually really liked this game a lot when it came out. And I mean, it's very tough. More than Callisto Protocol? Probably not. It's basically a game where you're making found footage with your friends. Or I mean, you could play it solo if you want. You are making found footage content with your friends, uploading it to the interwebs, the internet, and getting views on it in which you can spend for upgrades. So it's kind of like a roguelite, but nothing really persists after the run ends. So I mean, is it really a roguelite? No. You and 4 friends have a video camera, and you can buy equipment to make your videos better, which get more views, and you go out into different locations and worlds and film interesting stuff like skulls or the world itself, like machines or literally anything that looks interesting. And well, there's a lot of monsters that will probably chase after you and murk you and kill you that you have to look out for. And well, the more of the monsters you get recorded and, you know, things happening, the more views you get. So it's kind of like a balancing of trying to get cool, funny shit recorded, because it's also like kind of a funny game, and trying to survive to, you know, make it onto the next day and get more stuff. Really good game. I like it. At Dead of Night is a it's like a movie horror game. I forgot what it's called. Full motion video. It's like basically the game is like cutscenes, and then you get to interact with the game and shift the cutscenes to like whatever you want. It's very cool. It's very unique. I've not played it though, and At Dead of Night has this problem that they have addressed personally, where uploading the game and like kind of like watching someone play it will kind of defeat the purpose of you ever playing it, because, you know, you don't really often watch movies for the second time unless you really want to, and I feel like games, that's especially hard. It's like just want to replay through it because it's a lot more of a time investment. And so At Dead of Night had to address this, where it's like, hey, please don't upload like the ending to our game to YouTube so we can get people to play it and, you know, make some money off of it. I think it's very unique. I think it's very charming, and I think it could be pretty tense. So I hope to see more from whoever made At Dead of Night. I thought that was really cool, and I think it'd be interesting to see more games like that, because quite literally this is like the only game I can think of that's like a movie video game. Here we go. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. What is this picture? Is that Daniel? Daniel. Where did he go? Yeah, it is. That hurts. Or is that Justine? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that... It looks like Justine. From Amnesia. Justine. I don't know. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I will put... here. Probably like... I think that's good. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is very well known for people in my generation because we kind of grew up with it. And it was very influential for the horror sphere as a whole back when it came out in like 2012 or whatever. It is probably like up there with one of the more well-known games, like, you know, Outlast. Like for all these like indie games like Outlast and Amnesia, it was very meaningful. And with Amnesia, I think it was really good. I had a fun time playing it, but I think compared to some of the other cool games, like SOMA, made by the same developers, I feel like I was a little disappointed because, how do I feel about it? I'm trying to elaborate my thoughts. I think just comparing it to other horror games, it wasn't as crazy as I was hoping for. And, you know, like the monsters were cool, and I think like the sanity feature is also pretty awesome, and the story itself is a little, it was a little hard to follow for me, but I was also like commentating for like the first time around then because I was recording it. It was very hard to keep track of the story and commentate, but I feel like I've seen games do better since then. So my perception of Amnesia has kind of just gone down over time. You know, that's not to say it's a bad game. I'm leaving it in B. I think it's a good game, and I would say it's a very, very good start for people who want to get into horror. Yeah, I think those are its flaws. Where if there was like an Amnesia remake or something like that, I think it would do really, really well. If they shifted some things around, and I think the sanity feature definitely needs like a rework, because it was a little frustrating to deal with the sanity at some times, and I know it did it on purpose to add more tension, but sometimes it just wasn't. It did not work well. I think I'll leave Amnesia there. I have not played Amnesia: Machine for Pigs. Apparently it's bad though. Made by the Chinese Room. Not the same developers, but same universe kind of shtick. Was not good apparently. Amnesia Rebirth, I will put... That's fine. For Amnesia Rebirth, it is even more of kind of a narrative experience than Amnesia was. I did also record this, and I have some videos of it on my channel. I feel like it's a toned down, or it's a huge step in the like Amnesia lore, and it is the most like lore tense game ever in the series of like 4 games. But I feel like it did it way too hard and way too quick. I did not really understand anything that was going on in that game. And again, maybe it was a problem of trying to commentate. And I also played it over the span of like 2 months, I think. So maybe I just forgot about certain things over time. All the cool things that Amnesia did really well, I think Amnesia the Rebirth tried to improve upon, or tried to make more intense, but it did not work out. Like I was saying, the story, it's a little bit more intense, and I don't think a lot of people liked it. It was a little too story focused, which is something that I hear a lot for that game, which I have to agree. And instead of like a lantern, and in Rebirth you have like matches and a match book. If you move for like 3 seconds while you have a match lit, it like blows out. So like the only time you ever have light is like when you're next to like a lantern to like light up. Whereas in Amnesia Rebirth, Amnesia the Dark Descent, you have like a lantern that you can just bring with you. And it was still limited, so it still felt like cautionary to use because, you know, you didn't want to fucking get into a big ass maze or a big ass location where the monster's at and you have no light. I also didn't really like the monsters in Amnesia Rebirth too much. I used to actually, when I first finished the game, I thought this is better than Amnesia, but I don't know how I thought about that before. I don't think that's probably the case. And yeah, it's too different. And it took a long time for Amnesia Rebirth to come out. That I think that a lot of the kind of feelings and themes of the regular first Amnesia game kind of got shifted over the years of just developing other games and having probably team people shift in and out of the company and whatever. So it might have just been like a time thing, but that's the only thing I can really think of. Amnesia the Bunker. I finished this game, probably like a month ago, right? When did I finish Amnesia the Bunker? It was soon. It was recently. November 12th. It hasn't even been a month since I finished it. This is Amnesia's other best game, probably. I'll actually put it right above the first Amnesia. Amnesia the Bunker is essentially a combination of Alien Isolation's stalker enemy, the alien, and a combination of Frictional Games' earliest series, Penumbra. It takes place in like an underground bunker, of course, during like a war, and there's like a story that's going on in there that you're kind of piecing together as you go around the different locations of the bunker. And you have this very vicious, very aggressive AI that follows you. And what Amnesia the Bunker did that I think is especially amazing is, and something they definitely take pride in, is its use of environmental freedom. You have different things in your environment like traps, gas, like gasoline tanks, bombs. You get a whole bunch of shit that you can use to your advantage, trying to outsmart and outperform this monster that's chasing you throughout the entire game. And I think that is so unique and so cool. And I hope more games do that, because in Amnesia the Bunker, it's kind of like Alien Isolation, where you can craft some items to help you. There's different items that you can use and put around and use to distract or whatever. But unlike Alien Isolation, there's just an environment that you can interact with too that can help. And that's really, really cool. The other thing that Amnesia the Bunker did that was also kind of cool is that it was kind of open world. In the sense that there was different locations you could travel to and from freely whenever you wanted, with one save room if you play on normal difficulty that was kind of in between all of them. So I thought that was really interesting, and it kept things a little tense, because if you wanted to save, you would have to run all the way back to your save point, and if you didn't, you'd have to be really careful and really use the toolbox of items in your environment to stay alive in a place where you don't know where the fuck you're at. Very cool. Very awesome. Love it. If I did have anything bad to say about it, though, felt a little short. I actually took kind of a long time to beat it, but otherwise, I still think it was pretty cool. Nuclear Nightmare. This is a multiplayer, semi-open world horror game where you have to like do tasks and shit while trying to survive a very cold and frigid place. I actually had a lot of fun playing this with my friends. There's still updates being added to the game. I think soon they're adding like a new map. It's a little jank, but I think it adds to the game a little bit. And I will put it in the B tier. I'm just trying to figure out where. I think I do kind of like it a little bit more than Content Warning, because Content Warning feels all for naught sometimes. You get really far, and one little mistake can ruin your run. It's like, a roguelite, but Nuclear Nightmare is not. It's also like inspired by The Thing, which is, great horror movie and all that, and I think that's probably just fine where it's at. You have like cosmetics and shit, which is really weird. I don't know if I particularly care for stuff like that, but it's there. There's like perks and stuff, so like whenever you get out of a mission, you get points, and you can spend those points on perks to make your games a little easier. It's highly customizable too. It's very nice. Alright, The Evil Within 1. I don't know if it's because I'm playing on a hard difficulty, but I have not been a fan of The Evil Within so far. It feels very strange coming from the Resident Evil director. I am about like 5 or 6 chapters in, and I feel like I don't know what's going on. I feel like the game doesn't know what it wants to be either. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't particularly care for any of the characters that I've met so far. I've been given no reason to. The only thing that I think has been pretty enjoyable about The Evil Within so far has been like the upgrade system. I think it's really fun. I think the collecting of like the points that you spend has been pretty satisfying and interesting. There's not many horror games where you can upgrade your character and stuff like that. So this would be like a pretty close first for me. Aside from like Dead Space, that's pretty much it. It's not particularly scary. It's like, I don't know, it's just weird. And it's very frustrating sometimes because it feels a little janky. But I don't know if that's just me. Also, the main character is like a ex-cop. Or no, they're not an ex-cop. They are a cop. But they can't run like 5 seconds without running out of breath. It's just annoying. I don't know. You can upgrade that, but it's just so out of place. And I'm hoping the second game's better. I'm going to trudge through this first game and finish it because, I mean, it's still popular and notable enough. And it's actually, it makes me sad because Tango Gameworks, the people who made this, made like Hi-Fi Rush and Tokyo, or Ghostwire Tokyo, which I consider to be like way better games, like their best games of all time for sure. I love both of these games, and this was just not it for me. I don't know. Oh boy, Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, where do I start? Start with the original Five Nights at Freddy's, I guess. Now, I'm someone who, unfortunately, I get really shaken up over fandom stuff. I think if like the fandom's really weird, I feel more inclined to not play games. And over time, I've tried to step away from that mindset, and I separate, the game from the fandom. It's a little hard at times. But Five Nights at Freddy's is definitely one of those games where I don't really know how to feel. Because if you asked me like 6 years ago, I'd probably be like, this game is cringe. It's good, but it's cringe. And I don't think it's cringe anymore. The original FNAF I will put probably in the top of B. I don't think it's the scariest game of all time. It's definitely good, but I also wouldn't consider it to be like particularly fun either. Like, I like a good horror game that's also fun to play, and Five Nights at Freddy's was just not that for me. Yeah, I think I will put it... I'll probably put it down here. I think that's fine. And I do think, if I had to say, I probably do think the first Five Nights at Freddy's is the best in the series. The second, actually, is a close one for me. Just by a little. Because, I don't know, I like the characters a little bit more. I like that they were a little bit freakier. You have like the marionette, so it's a little bit more interesting compared to just checking like 1 or 2 cameras and then closing the door. FNAF 3 is pretty infamous for being kind of boring because there's only one antagonist, Springtrap or whatever. So I will put that lower somewhere here. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know where. I've never actually finished any Five Nights at Freddy's game. So it's kind of just weird for me to put it anywhere. FNAF 4 is also pretty like from what I've heard. I thought it was the scariest FNAF game, personally, because it takes place in a house and these animatronics are really creepy. But I also do have to say Five Nights at Freddy's after like 3 probably is like some of the worst storytelling I think I've ever seen, ever. I like it's just gone on for too long, and it feels like after a certain point Five Nights at Freddy's is just more of like a cash grab game that just kind of went off the hype, and I just don't know how to feel about it after a certain point. And the fact that it's still going and there's still these like shitty spin-offs that change everything that the original was about is really disturbing to me. And the fact that like kids are still getting into this shitty ass series with no idea that there's so much better stuff out there is really sad. Also, that was technically the last FNAF game I've played, FNAF 4. After that I kind of grew up out of it. So no more FNAF. I have nothing else to rank for them. My Friendly Neighborhood. This was a game I've played pretty recently in the spring of 2024. I was a little disappointed. In terms of gameplay, I think it's fine. A little easy at times. And it's not very scary. The scariest part of this game is like the last 30 minutes because the game actually flips its head a little bit and kind of plays on expectations. And I thought it was genuinely really, really cool. It's Resident Evil inspired. I think they were on the right track with it, but somewhere they just didn't hit. I think the theme is cool. Evil puppets, very awesome. And yeah, I think it's pretty. I think I've thought about it enough. That's really all I do have to say. There's a couple different endings that I think are cool, depending on what you do. But yeah, it was a little too easy for my liking, and it made the game not tense, which is something that I think is pretty important for a more action horror game that's inspired by Resident Evil. And it just wasn't scary. But I do think it was on the right track, so unironically, I'll probably put it in high C tier. There's also like fun post-game stuff that you can do and unlock, which is very awesome. I love post-game stuff. Emily Wants to Play. I've never played this game, but I did watch enough people play it to have an opinion on it, I think. Probably one of the better games to come out in a weird time where everything you saw was like just FNAF. I think it did better than like most of the FNAF games, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it was like anything like super crazy. The premise is really cool, and I like the idea of like having to do shit in a house while you're getting chased by like, 4 different enemies that you have to do unique things with. I thought that was really cool. And whoever made this game, they were definitely cooking a little, I'm not gonna lie. Buckshot Roulette, I wouldn't really consider this to be a horror game. It's got like a horror theme to it, I guess. This is basically just like a short little shotgun roulette game that you can play against an AI. That's pretty fun. Or against up to 4 friends in a new recently released multiplayer update. I don't think it does anything special though. I think it's fun. It's not really scary. And it's like $2, $3 at most. Somewhere around that ballpark. And it was fun for what it was. I finished the game twice and it's like, I can go infinitely, I guess. I don't know. If you really want to play something like this, the 21 game mode from Resident Evil 7 is way better and way up your alley. Not to say that this is bad, but I feel like you can get a lot more mileage out of the Resident Evil 7 game mode. Next we have, where was it? Inscription. This is a deck builder horror roguelike made by the person who made Pony Island, I think. I've not played that game. I've not finished Inscription. I have gotten pretty far. I think right here is where I'm going to leave it. The art direction is pretty cool. It has a sort of escape room kind of feel to it. If you've ever played the game, you'll know what I mean. And the actual like card roguelite thing is pretty fun as well. I think it's pretty difficult, and I think it does that on purpose because it's a roguelite and you're supposed to like die pretty easily at the beginning of these games. I think the antagonist is really cool. There's some post-game stuff, I think, where you can like keep going and fight even stronger enemies. The actual cards are all based on like animals and creatures. It's really, really cool. I like the direction that Inscription went on. I'm gonna shift some things around a little bit. Monstrum, we'll go down there. Yeah, I like where Inscription's at right now. I liked World of Horror a little bit more for some other stuff, kind of similar to it, but here we have Mouthwashing. This is a game I've played very, very recently. I think it is a pretty good game. Now, I don't hate Mouthwashing, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I was a little too hyped over the game. It's a very claustrophobic horror game. It takes place on a ship. There's like 5 characters to keep track of, 6 technically. On Steam, there's like an overwhelmingly positive like set of reviews for it, and so I'm going in. I know it's like story focused. I'm thinking this is gonna be like incredible, like the best of the best, the cream of the crop. And Mouthwashing was good, but I don't think it did anything phenomenal or crazy. And I've let people know in my review that, it's a good game, but if you're coming in expecting anything like groundbreaking or specifically unique to the genre, then you probably won't be your interest will not be piqued, I don't think, at any point in the game. The characters are cool. I think they're very interesting. There's a couple that I don't know if they were really developed well. I don't know. They seem kind of tropish. And I just didn't really care for them. But otherwise, it's a pretty fun game. It's like psychological horror. I would definitely recommend picking it up and just playing it. Yeah. This is Sam Hain or Sam Hine. I can't remember. This is the first public combo game I've ever played. The title is based off the original name for Halloween, like the holiday. It's like a walking sim. It's okay, I guess. This video is actually on my channel. I don't remember anything about it though, so genuinely I can't really put it too high. I can probably put it higher than these games. I know that actually. I think that's probably fair. Yeah, it's just like a walking sim. It was creepy for a good bit, but I don't really remember too much else. Rewind or Die. This is the longest puppet combo game I've played. Not to say that it was like actually long. It was just like the lengthiest one I've played. There's probably longer ones. This is actually under their new company name called under Torture Star Video. Sorry, I was like very wrong. It's cool. If you've played puppet combo games or Chilla's Art games, they're basically just like small story-driven. I won't say story-driven. They're just like puzzle games where like you do shit and there's like a monster around you sometimes. That's more specific to puppet combo than it is Chilla's Art. It was cool. I thought it was fun and interesting. I think the theming's pretty cool, but it's not anything I haven't seen before. So I will leave it here. Yeah. It was fun. The original Granny. I've played none of this, and I don't think I ever will. It's like scarier Hello Neighbor. Scarier with an asterisk, because it's just like actually horror themed, unlike Hello Neighbor, kind of. I don't know. See, that's probably fine. It's like puzzles. Maybe getting chased by the granny in a house. It's like a mobile game, so like, I don't know. There's not really too much you can really expect from a little scary mobile game. Alright, now for the Chilla's Art games. These are all going to be pretty much the same. There's very little difference in like the style of the games and like kind of what you're doing. Like I said, these are all puzzle focus. This is Stigmatized Property. I can't read that kanji, so unfortunately that's... Is it mono? It looks like mono. The kanji for object. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think where I want to put most of these. I think most of these are actually pretty good. Better than FNAF. I don't know. Probably not. Maybe some of them are better than FNAF. And I don't think Monstrum's actually that good. I don't know. I just have like a little bit of a personal reason for liking Monstrum so much, but it's probably actually not that good. And I need to put it down more. And then this is probably fine. Stigmatized Property, I actually enjoyed. It's pretty fun. It's about haunted property and your friend goes missing. And you're trying to figure out what's going on. I thought it was pretty creepy. Now for these other games I've played, let's see. Inunaki Tunnel. I did not like as much. I played this on stream actually. Like I really can't feel like, I don't feel like moving these too much from each other. Like I'm getting way too specific with some of these. We have Night Delivery I've played. Sorry, I saw one of the ones that definitely freaked me out. Night Delivery. This one was also pretty good. I'll leave it next to Stigmatized Property. Here it is. Akamanto. This is on my channel. This is just like Nun Massacre, if you know what that is. It's basically just like directly inspired by Nun Massacre, except Akamanto is like actually hard. And it's annoying in that kind of way, but it is probably one of the scariest games I played, specifically because it had been a while since I played a horror game before Akamanto. Like I took a little break. I think I played like Misao, and then I got into Akamanto, and it's like the difference between these two games is so like apparent in like terms of like horror. It was just like really bad. But the game's like really difficult, so I feel like I need to leave it down here a little bit. Also, I'm gonna do myself a favor and boost Outlast Trials a big chunk because I've played it recently and have enjoyed it a lot more. That's probably fine though. I was playing like the fucking Christmas update or something. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun. We have Missing Children. It's probably one of the first ones I feel like I've played. I don't remember this one too much. I think I had... Did I? I did upload this one, I think. Yeah. Did I? I think I did. This one was also fine. Pretty good. The convenience store, this was also pretty good. Like, again, like, a lot of these are, like, very similar in, like, quality and style, which I think is really nice. If you want, like, a consistent series that you can play and just have fun with, I think Chilla's art definitely is really good. Also, like, you don't get many games that, like, have, like, a focus on, like, Japanese folklore, kind of, and urban legends, and Chilla's art games definitely hit that. Lunch Lady, I have not played this game, but I've seen enough of it. What do I say? I don't know. It's just like multiplayer game. Do objectives while getting chased by a scary person. Probably better than Granny. Probably better than Misao. Better than FNAF? Probably not. Pacify? I think it's a little scarier because Lunch Lady is just like the same enemy. I don't know. That's probably fine. Iron Lung. My opinion on this game is not very high. Compared to most people, but it's kind of like a walking sim in a way. I think the idea of the game is really cool, but I wouldn't say it wasn't like fun. I don't know. You're just like going around and like looking at shit, and the atmosphere is really good at the beginning of the game. Like, you're hearing all this like scary shit happening around you, like under the water, but you hear the same noises after a certain point, and it's like, okay, it's kind of just like looping and nothing's actually going on. And then the game, I'm going to spoil the ending. So be warned, I'm going to start talking about the ending of Iron Lung. I should say it is like worth the buy. It's like $5, $10 maybe, but it's like really short. It's like an hour long maybe. But anyway, you're going along, you're just like looking at shit. And it's like kind of cool, kind of scary, and then it all culminates in like a scary, small jump scare ending. You know, it's like a JPEG jump scare. It's like, oh, okay, and that was it. I don't know, it's all right. The original Slender, probably not the scariest game by any stretch, but I think its influence is too funny, so I'm putting it up here. Better than Amnesia Rebirth? Probably not. Better than Cry of Fear? Probably not. Witch's House? Yeah, I'm gonna put it lower, definitely. Bottom of B tier. That's fine. So, we have one more game here. I've been waiting for this game to show up for a while. I'm Scared. A pixelated nightmare. I'm going to consider this to be the Steam version and not like the online Flash version from a long time ago. I really loved I'm Scared. It was, ironically, probably one of the scariest games I've ever played. My gameplay of it is on the channel. It's a little confusing at certain points, and I don't even know what the story's about, really. There's like, it's like very cryptic with it. I think it stays like that. I don't know if there's actually like an explanation or anything. I mean, there's like theories and everything, you know, but yeah, like just the atmosphere this game sets up is really dreadful, and I really like it. Like, I have never felt more like iffy to like continue onward in a game than like I'm Scared, probably. And it might not look like that on the video, but there's probably been times where like I would like have to take like a stress break, and I'm Scared definitely was one of those games, I think. The only bad thing I have to say about I'm Scared is that to get an ending, you have to get all the achievements, and I had a weird bug in my game where I couldn't get one of the achievements, so I had to like cheat it in, and that was kind of annoying, and it took me like an hour or two. But it was also just like, why ruin the atmosphere of the game to tell me I need to get all of the achievements so I can get like an extra 20 minutes of like the scariest part of the game? I was really upset by that, because like the ending sequence is really cool, and it's really scary, and it will always stay in my head, I think. Like, even if I somehow fucking develop like dementia within the next couple of years by reason of, I don't know, eating junk food all day, I think that ending portion will still remain in my head forever in some part of my brain. And it's phenomenal. Unironically, yeah, probably the scariest game I've played. PT is probably scarier, but I've not played PT. I'm putting I'm Scared. I do think it's probably better than Dead Space, just by a little. I think I'll leave it there. Right below Silent Hill 2, I like both of these games pretty equally. I think I like Silent Hill 2 a little bit more for the story. But yeah, that's my horror game tier list. I'm going to skim through everything real quick and make sure everything is where I feel like it should be. I feel like I'm comfortable with this. I feel a little iffy about like these bottom few in the B tier. Because again, like I'm not like super high on Iron Lung and Mouthwashing like most people. But I wouldn't go as far to say that they're like okay games. Like if this wasn't my tier list, these would probably be like higher if I was taking in other people's opinions more. But I don't know. I thought they were good, but like nothing crazy. Alright, one from the future here. It's like March, and I realized that some of the games are not in here. So yeah, we're just gonna finish this tier list up with games that I thought were pretty notable that were not already included on this tier list website. First, we have Kinito Pet. I played this not too long ago. I thought it was pretty interesting, pretty cool, but at the same time, we live in a world now where meta horror games are kinda expected in a way. I think Doki Doki probably had something to do with that. So now anytime a game like says your name, it's like, whoa, man, you looked at my computer name. That's crazy. I haven't seen that before, ever. And it's like, it's cool. And it does some other things that these meta horror games have not done before, but you kind of expect it because the game asks you to make it like an administrator on your computer. So it's cool in concept, but it's not really scary because you expect some things to come out of it. So yeah, that's just how I feel. I think it was still a cool game overall. I got one ending in it, and I have not played it more. I do plan on it eventually. I'll just leave it here probably. I think that's okay. Next game. So I know some of these I already did before, so I'm kind of redoing them. Or actually, it's just one game. I'm glad I'm redoing it anyway though, because I want to change its position. Next up, we have Lethal Company. This is probably the most fun I've had in a multiplayer horror game. And for that reason, I might put it in A. I think I'm gonna leave it in A. And it hurts because this isn't like an entire like tier list, because I really like Omori a lot more than I do Lethal Company. But in terms of horror, I think Lethal Company is just better. Because it manages to stay pretty scary. Even when you're playing with friends, I think. And it's really hard for games to do that nowadays. So for Lethal Company, I'm going to put it probably above Outlast, but I like Resident Evil Village more. So I think I'll leave it there. I'm glad to finally see something else in the A tier. This game came out like a week ago, so that tells you just how long I've been working on this. It's been a couple months. R.E.P.O. It's a Lethal Company-like, but it's a lot funnier. And there's not too much to it. I'll say both of these games don't really have that much to them. Once you like play for a couple hours, you kind of seen everything, in a way. Except maybe like the monsters. I will put R.E.P.O. I kind of like it a little more than Content Warning. Because Content Warning was kind of coming out to be like the silly version of Lethal Company, but I think R.E.P.O. does it a lot better. It's like, you know, kind of physics-based. The characters are very funny, they're silly. The text-to-speech and voice chat is just hilarious because like your mouth opens up so fucking wide when you're talking. I love it. It's pretty funny. Me and my friends have gotten a good bit of mileage out of it, and they're continuing to update the game, unlike Content Warning. But it has to be expected from Landfall. They don't usually ever stay on a game for that long. But the developers for R.E.P.O., the same developers for Void ago, if I'm not mistaken, they are continuing to update the game, so I'm pretty excited. I don't know how long that's gonna be. I feel like these types of games can only be updated for so long, but you know, that's just how I feel. Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. Originally called Spooky's House of Jump Scares before it got retitled due to copyright issues, I think. This is, unironically, a good game. Is it the greatest? Not by any stretch. I think this is the best starter horror game. I'm not gonna lie. It starts off kind of simple, and it gets pretty creepy pretty fast. And that's why I like it. Like anytime I want to get someone into a horror games, I think this is like where I'm gonna start them. Because it's also pretty simple. Like there's not a lot you have to do in this game that's very like challenging. I mean, it is like in some ways challenging, but like you're mainly just like walking around. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But I mean, for the same reason, it's not like the greatest game of all time because it's so simple. I will leave it probably here. I like it a little more than Kinito Pet. I think it's very cute, and I think the monsters are very cool, very well designed, and there's a lot of them. I think there's DLC too. I don't know. It's just cool for such a simple game. I like it a lot. Okay, this is the game that I have to redo because it disappeared on the tier list. And I think all these games I just added are gonna re-disappear if I ever update this. So I'm gonna have to add these every time. Kind of annoying. You and Me and Her, or Totono. I'm gonna say everything again. It's a Naroge game, so there's porn in this game, so if you don't like that, probably not a game for you. You can play without it, but you miss out on some of the story that's important. Because this game is very fucked up. And I can't talk about it more without going into why this game's so fucked up. It's pretty crazy. And if you're okay with what I said, I think this is definitely a game that you won't forget for a while, maybe. Definitely worth the play. I've had one person play it, one person that was comfortable enough to play it, and they're like, there's gonna be very few games that are gonna like surpass this in like its craziness. Like it's just horrifying in ways that you do not expect. It's pretty nice. And for that reason, I am putting it probably really high up here. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's probably where I'm gonna leave it. I'm like torn between these two. I'd say like they're like the same level. This game's like super fucking scary, and this game is super fucking scary, but like in a different way. And it's nice. It's really cool. This is The Crooked Man. I don't think this was in the list already. This is a RPG Maker horror game that I think actually nails the head on horror pretty well compared to something like Misao or The Witch's House. I think The Witch's House is definitely scarier than Misao by a long shot, but I think The Crooked Man is just so horror focused compared to like The Witch's House, where you're just like dying consistently and it kind of just ruins the horror a little bit. This one I think stayed pretty good in it. So I think it's a step above it. And I really like the antagonist for The Crooked Man a hell of a lot more than I do some of these other RPG Maker horror games. He's just fucking creepy, man. I don't know what to say. He's really cool. And I think it is part one of a larger RPG Maker horror series, anthology, whatever you want to call it. I've not played anything more than the first game though. I probably want to replay it before I move on to these other ones. But yeah, that's where that is going to stay. Alright, and this is White Noise 2. This is a multiplayer asymmetrical horror game that I played like years and years and years ago. And it doesn't have players anymore. It was fun for what it was, but it didn't have enough to keep people interested, I don't think. Especially when you have the games like Dead by Daylight coming out. Just like destroying it in half. So yeah, probably above Lunch Lady. I think this game's like, the Lunch Lady is kind of silly. It kind of reminds me of like Granny, where it's like the lack of quality in certain parts is kind of like more funny than anything. But White Noise wasn't really funny. It was kind of just like it was just a horror game where you play with your friends and you get chased by one of your friends. Okay. This is my horror game tier list. as of March fucking 7th, 8th. I forgot what day it is. This is my game tier list, ranked on mainly scary factor, horror, whatever you want to say it. I feel like I'm like 10 years old saying scary, based on story and themes and character, and also just how fun they are as a whole.